The bride hit the floor at exactly 2:47 p.m. I know the exact time because I was standing 3 feet away, holding her bouquet while she said her vows, and I watched my watch when the paramedics arrived and asked 2:47 p.m. on a Saturday in June. The most beautiful wedding ceremony I'd planned in 18 years. Roses everywhere, white and blush, her favorite combination, string quartet playing Pachelbel, sunlight streaming through the floor-to-ceiling windows of the Ashford estate. 200 guests in their finest clothes holding their breath as the officiant said those sacred words. And then she just fell. Not a faint, not a stumble, a collapse, like someone had cut her strings. Her knees buckled first, then her whole body went down, white dress pooling around her like spilled milk. Her head made this sound when it hit the marble floor, a sound I still hear sometimes when I'm trying to fall asleep. The groom didn't move. That's what I remember most clearly. Everyone else screamed, rushed forward, pulled out phones to call 911. The maid of honor dropped to her knees beside the bride. The bride's mother was shrieking from the second row. But the groom, Derek Hastings, 34, investment banker, perfectly styled hair, custom Tom Ford tuxedo, he just stood there, staring down at his bride like he was watching something mildly interesting on television. Not shocked, not panicked, just watching. I'm Maya Sinclair. I've been planning weddings for 18 years. I've seen grooms cry, faint, run away, and throw up from nerves. I've seen every possible human reaction to wedding day stress. I've never seen a groom look at his collapsing bride with what I can only describe as curiosity, like he was waiting to see what would happen next. That's when I knew something was very, very wrong. But I didn't know how wrong. Not yet. I didn't know that for the past 4 months, Derek had been slowly poisoning the woman he was about to marry. I didn't know that her wedding day nerves and diet stress were actually systematic arsenic poisoning. I didn't know that if she'd actually said, "I do," she probably would have been dead within 6 weeks. I didn't know any of that when she collapsed. But I would. Because 3 days later, a toxicology report would reveal everything. And I would spend the next 6 months replaying every conversation, every meeting, every moment I'd spent with that couple, wondering how I missed it. This is the story of the most beautiful wedding I ever planned. The one that never actually happened. The one that saved a woman's life. And it started 6 months before that collapse, on a Tuesday afternoon in December, when a couple walked into my office and I ignored every single instinct that told me something was wrong.
Before we begin today's story, I'd love to know something about you. Tell me, from which city are you watching? Leave your answer in the comments below. Now, take a deep breath, sit back, and let's begin this journey together.
Lauren Castellano and Derek Hastings came to me through a referral from the Ashford estate. The venue manager, Patricia, had called me the week before. "Maya, I've got a couple who just booked the June 15th Saturday premium package. Money is not an issue. They specifically asked if you were available." Money is not an issue. That's code in the wedding industry. It means wealthy clients, high budget, and usually, though not always, high maintenance. "What are they like?" I asked. After 18 years, I've learned that this question matters more than the budget. "Haven't met them yet," Patricia said. "Everything was done through his assistant. Wire transfer for the deposit, very efficient." His assistant, not a wedding planner, not the bride, his assistant. First red flag. Though I didn't register it as such at the time, I just filed it away in the part of my brain that catalogs unusual details. "Send them my information," I told Patricia. "I've got the June 15th date open." June is peak wedding season. A Saturday in mid-June at the Ashford estate, one of the most exclusive venues in the tri-state area, meant this was a premium wedding. The kind that paid well and looked beautiful in portfolio photos. The kind that kept my business thriving. So when Lauren and Derek walked into my office on that Tuesday in December, I was prepared to be impressed, and I was, just not in the way I expected. Lauren arrived first. I have a home office where I meet clients. It's in my house, a renovated 1920s colonial that my husband Ethan designed. The office is separate from the main living space with its own entrance, so clients never feel like they're intruding on my personal life. Cream walls, comfortable seating, a large desk where I spread out samples and timelines. Professional, but warm. That's the aesthetic I've cultivated. I heard her car pull up at 2:55 p.m., 5 minutes early, which I appreciated. Through my window, I watched her get out of a silver BMW, designer handbag, wool coat that probably cost more than my monthly mortgage, dark hair pulled into a sleek ponytail. She moved carefully, like someone who'd been taught deportment as a child. She knocked softly. When I opened the door, the first thing I noticed was how thin she was. Not naturally slender, not fitness thin. Thin in the way that makes you look twice. Collarbones too prominent, cheekbones sharp enough to cast shadows, wrists that looked like they'd snap if you held them too hard. Mrs. Sinclair, her voice was soft, cultured. I'm Lauren Castellano. Thank you so much for meeting with us. Please call me Maya. I shook her hand, cold fingers, weak grip. Come in, can I get you some tea? Oh no, thank you. She smiled and I noticed her teeth were perfect, veneers probably. Everything about her screamed money and maintenance. Derek should be here any minute. He's just finishing a meeting. We sat in the consultation area, two facing sofas with a coffee table between them, where I keep wedding magazines and sample books. Lauren perched on the edge of the sofa like she was afraid to fully commit to sitting. So, I said, pulling out my tablet. Tell me about your vision for the wedding. She opened her mouth to answer, but then her phone buzzed. She glanced at it and something changed in her face. A tightening around the eyes. That's Derek. He's here. The way she said it made me pay attention. Not excited, not warm, more like relieved or maybe resigned. I couldn't quite place the tone. Derek Hastings walked in 30 seconds later without knocking. That was the second thing I noticed about him. He entered my space like he owned it, not rudely exactly, just with the confidence of someone who'd never been told no. He was handsome in that polished, generic way that wealthy men often are. Good haircut, good suit, good teeth. Handsome the way a stock photo model is handsome, perfect but forgettable. Maya Sinclair. He extended his hand, firm grip, direct eye contact. Derek Hastings. Sorry I'm late. Market close ran long. He wasn't late. He was exactly on time. But I noticed he'd still framed it as an apology while simultaneously letting me know he was important enough that the stock market made him run late. A power move disguised as courtesy. I've planned over 600 weddings. You develop instincts. No problem at all, I said smoothly. Lauren and I were just getting started. Please sit. He sat next to Lauren, not close enough to touch, I noticed. Not the way most engaged couples sit. Usually there's contact, a hand on a knee, arms touching, something. They sat like colleagues in a meeting. So, Derek leaned back, one arm stretched across the back of the sofa, not around Lauren, just near her. Patricia at the Ashford spoke very highly of you. Said you're the best in the business. Patricia's very kind, I said. I love working with couples to create weddings that feel authentic to them. So let's start there. Tell me your story. How did you meet? This is always my first question. The answer tells me everything I need to know about a couple. Do they tell the story together, trading details? Does one person dominate? Do they light up? Do they look at each other? Derek answered immediately. We met at a charity gala 2 years ago. Lauren was there with her father, Vincent Castellano. He's in commercial real estate. I just made junior partner at Morrison & Stokes. We were seated at the same table. He delivered it like a resume bullet point. No warmth, no detail, just facts. I looked at Lauren. She was looking at her hands. And what drew you to each other? I prompted gently. We have a lot in common, Derek said, again, immediately, not giving Lauren space to answer. Similar backgrounds, similar goals, similar social circles. It made sense. It made sense. In 18 years, I'd never heard someone describe falling in love as something that made sense. Lauren finally spoke. Derek's very successful. My father was impressed with him. Was impressed, past tense. I filed that away too. That's wonderful, I said, keeping my voice warm and professional. And the proposal, tell me about that. Christmas Eve last year, Derek said. Her father's house. Family dinner. I asked Vincent's permission first, obviously, did it properly. It was very romantic, Lauren added quickly, but her voice was flat. Like she was reading from a script she'd memorized but didn't believe. I've heard thousands of proposal stories. The good ones have energy, details, emotion. The couple relives the moment together, interrupting each other, laughing, touching. Even the quiet couples, the shy ones, the reserved ones, they have something, a look, a smile, a shared memory that makes them both light up. Lauren and Derek had none of that, but I'd also planned plenty of weddings for couples who weren't demonstrative, plenty of reserved formal couples who had perfectly happy marriages. Maybe they were just private, maybe they were nervous about the planning process, or maybe I was already seeing what I wanted to see because I needed the June booking. That's lovely, I said, and I meant it to be encouraging. So what's your vision for June 15th? What kind of wedding do you want to create? Derek pulled out his phone. I've made a list. Of course he had. 200 guests, seated dinner, not buffet, premium bar package, string quartet for the ceremony, live band for the reception, something that can do classic standards and current hits. Flowers should be elegant, but not overdone. I'm thinking white and maybe a subtle accent color. Nothing too bold. Lauren looks best in soft colors. He said all of this without looking at Lauren, without asking her input. Just delivered the requirements like he was ordering a corporate event. Lauren sat perfectly still. Those are wonderful starting points, I said carefully. Lauren, what are your thoughts? What have you been dreaming about for your wedding day? She looked at Derek before answering, actually looked at him, like she was checking for permission. I trust Derek's taste, she said. Whatever he thinks is best. Red flag number 3. But again, some brides are overwhelmed by choices. Some are happy to let their partners take the lead. It doesn't always mean something's wrong, except for the way she looked at him, the way her shoulders were pulled in like she was trying to make herself smaller, the way her hands were clasped tightly in her lap, knuckles white, the way Derek smiled at her, and it didn't reach his eyes. Great, I said, pushing down the uneasy feeling starting to build in my chest. Let's talk budget, timeline, and we'll go from there. We spent the next 90 minutes going through logistics. Derek did most of the talking. He had opinions about everything, very specific opinions. The font for the invitations, the height of the centerpieces, the exact shade of white for the tablecloths. Lauren barely spoke. When she did offer an opinion, she liked peonies, wanted them in her bouquet. Derek responded with, peonies are expensive and they don't last. Roses are more practical. She didn't argue, just nodded and said, you're right, roses are fine. By the time they left, I had pages of notes and a signed contract. The deposit was wired to my account before they'd even reached their car. Derek's assistant was that efficient. I should have been thrilled. A June wedding at the Ashford estate with a substantial budget and clients who seemed to know exactly what they wanted. Instead, I stood at my window and watched Lauren get into the passenger seat of Derek's car, not her BMW, which was still parked in my driveway. He'd come to take her home, apparently. Or she'd been instructed to wait for him. I watched Derek check his phone before starting the engine, watched Lauren stare straight ahead, not speaking, watched them drive away and felt the first whisper of something I couldn't name yet. My husband Ethan came home an hour later and found me still in my office, staring at the contract. Good meeting, he asked, kissing the top of my head. I'm not sure, I said honestly. Not sure if it went well or not sure about the clients. The latter. Ethan knows better than to push. After 13 years of marriage and 18 years of me planning weddings, he's learned to trust my instincts, even when I can't articulate them yet. Red flags? He asked simply. Maybe. I turned to look at him. Or maybe I'm reading too much into things. She's very thin, very quiet. He dominates every conversation. But that doesn't necessarily mean anything's wrong. But your gut says otherwise. My gut says... I stopped, tried to find the right words. My gut says that girl looks scared, not nervous, about wedding planning, scared. Of what? I don't know, maybe nothing, maybe I'm projecting. Ethan sat on the edge of my desk. In 18 years, how many times has your gut been wrong about a couple? I thought about it, really thought about it. Not often. Then trust it, he said simply. Keep your eyes open. If something's off, you'll figure out what. I wish I'd listened to myself sooner. I wish I'd asked more questions in that first meeting. I wish I'd called Lauren separately and said, are you okay? Really okay? But I didn't, because she was an adult making her own choices. Because I'm a wedding planner, not a therapist or a detective. Because sometimes thin, quiet brides are just thin and quiet. And domineering grooms are just type A personalities with strong opinions. Because I needed the booking, and because I didn't know yet that Lauren Castellano was dying, and the man she was about to marry was the one killing her. The first 3 months of planning Lauren and Derek's wedding followed a pattern that became disturbingly predictable. Every meeting was the same. Derek scheduled them through his assistant, never asked if the times worked for Lauren. Derek showed up precisely on time. Lauren was always already there, 5 to 10 minutes early. Derek made all the decisions. Lauren agreed with everything. And afterwards, Lauren would linger for a few extra minutes, like she wanted to say something, but couldn't quite bring herself to do it. We met twice in January to finalize the vendor list. Derek had opinions about everyone. The photographer I suggested, an artist I'd worked with for 10 years, someone who captured genuine emotion in every shot, wasn't prestigious enough. Derek wanted Charles Whitmore, a photographer who charged triple and took beautiful sterile photos that looked like they belonged in a luxury magazine spread. Technically perfect, emotionally empty. Charles is certainly wonderful, I said carefully, but his style is very formal, editorial. Jamie's work is warmer, more candid. He captures real moments. We want the wedding to look sophisticated, Derek said. Charles Whitmore has shot weddings for ambassadors and CEOs. That's the aesthetic we're going for. But he never looked at Lauren when he said it. Lauren, I turned to her directly. What do you think? Have you looked at both portfolios? She had her phone out, scrolling through Jamie's Instagram. For a moment, I saw something flicker across her face. Interest, maybe even longing. One of Jamie's photos showed a bride laughing, head thrown back, pure joy captured mid-motion. They're lovely, she said softly. Then she looked at Derek. But I trust your judgment. If you think Charles is better. I do, Derek said firmly. Charles it is. Lauren put her phone away and didn't look at the photos again. This happened with every vendor. The florist, the band, the cake designer. I'd make suggestions based on Lauren and Derek's supposed preferences, elegant but warm, classic but personal, and Derek would override everything in favor of the most expensive, most prestigious, most impressive options. Impressive. That was the word he used constantly. I want the wedding to be impressive. The flowers need to make an impression. This will be an impressive celebration. Never beautiful, never meaningful, never personal, impressive. Like the wedding was a business deal he was closing, a merger he was announcing, something to showcase rather than something to celebrate. And Lauren just went along with it. In our January meetings, I noticed she was getting thinner. Her collarbone became more pronounced. Her engagement ring, a massive cushion-cut diamond that probably cost more than my car, kept sliding around her finger because her hands were so thin. In our February meetings, I noticed she looked tired. Not just tired, exhausted. Dark circles under her eyes that even expensive concealer couldn't quite hide. She'd excuse herself twice during one meeting to use the bathroom, and when she came back, her face looked drawn. Are you feeling okay? I asked her once when Derek stepped out to take a phone call. We were alone in my office for maybe 90 seconds. Lauren was standing by the window, staring out at the winter landscape. I'm fine, she said automatically, then softer. Just wedding stress, you know? Planning a wedding is stressful, I agreed, moving to stand beside her. But if it's becoming too much, we can slow down. Space out the meetings. Take some pressure off. No. She turned to me and I saw something in her eyes. Was it fear? Anxiety? Derek wants everything finalized by March. He's very organized. He likes having plans in place. I understand, but this is your wedding too. If you need... I'm fine, she interrupted, and her voice was suddenly firm, defensive. Really, I appreciate your concern, but I'm fine. Just tired. I've been dieting for the dress. The dress. We'd gone to Luminous Bridal in late January, one of the most exclusive bridal boutiques in the city. Lauren, me, her mother, Diane Castellano, perfectly preserved, designer everything, air of perpetual disappointment. And Derek's mother, Patricia Hastings, corporate attorney, even more formal than her son. No maid of honor, no bridesmaids, not for the dress shopping anyway. Lauren doesn't have many close girlfriends. her mother had explained when I'd asked. She's always been more focused on her education and career than socializing. But later, I'd see Lauren's phone light up with texts from someone named Jess with heart emojis. And once, in a moment when she thought no one was watching, I saw her smile at her phone. A real smile, unguarded, before quickly tucking it away when Derek looked over. So she did have friends. She just didn't have them at her wedding dress appointment. The appointment itself was uncomfortable. The boutique had reserved their largest suite for us. Champagne, chocolates, the full VIP experience. The consultant, Margot, brought out dress after dress based on the preferences I'd emailed ahead. Romantic, feminine, soft details. Lauren tried on 12 dresses. She looked beautiful in all of them. She had the kind of bone structure that made everything look editorial, but in some, she looked happy. A lace A-line with delicate sleeves made her eyes light up. A silk column dress with a low back made her stand a little straighter, smile at her reflection. Her mother had opinions. Derek's mother had opinions. But they waited to see what Derek would say. He sat in the corner of the suite, on his phone for most of the appointment, barely looking up as Lauren modeled dress after dress. Finally, Margot brought out a particular gown, strapless, heavily beaded structured bodice, dramatic ball gown skirt. It was stunning in a very formal, very traditional way. It was also, I could tell, immediately, not Lauren at all. Too heavy, too structured, too much. "This is the Helena gown," Margot said. "It's one of our most prestigious pieces. Very editorial. Made for a grand ballroom wedding." Derek looked up from his phone, actually put it down, and stood up to examine the dress. "That's the one," he said immediately. Lauren was still standing on the platform, looking at herself in the three-way mirror. The dress was beautiful, objectively, but it wore her rather than the other way around. She looked like a very elegant mannequin. "Let's see a few more before we decide," her mother said carefully. There were some other lovely options. "This is the one," Derek repeated, coming to stand behind Lauren. He met her eyes in the mirror. "You look perfect. This is exactly the image we want." Image, not "you look beautiful." Not "I can't wait to see you walking down the aisle" image. "It's a gorgeous dress," I offered, trying to help. "But Lauren, how does it feel? Can you move in it, sit in it, dance in it?" She tested the movement. The skirt was enormous, heavy with beading and layers of tulle. She could barely bend at the waist. "It's fine," she said, but her voice was uncertain. "We'll take it," Derek told Margot. "Alterations will need to be done by May 1st. That's non-negotiable." "Of course, Mr. Hastings." Margot made notes on her tablet. "We'll need to schedule fittings. Typically, we recommend 3 appointments to ensure the perfect fit." "I'll have my assistant coordinate with Lauren's schedule," Derek said, already pulling his phone back out. I watched Lauren's face in the mirror. She was still staring at herself in the Helena gown, this massive, heavy, impressive dress that made her look like someone else, made her look like what Derek wanted rather than who she was. And for just a moment, I saw her mask slip. Saw something in her expression that looked like resignation, or defeat, or grief. I should have said something. Should have asked Margot for a moment, alone with Lauren. Should have said, "Are you sure this is the dress you want? Really sure?" But I didn't. Because it wasn't my place to question a bride's dress choice. Because maybe she did like it, and I was reading too much into her expression. Because the dress cost $15,000, and Derek had already pulled out his black Amex card and was handing it to Margot. Decision made, transaction complete. As we were leaving the boutique, Lauren dropped her phone. When I bent to pick it up for her, I saw the screen had lit up with a text notification. "Just, have you told him yet? You can't keep waiting. You deserve to be happy." I handed the phone back to Lauren. Our eyes met for just a second. She took the phone, deleted the notification without reading it, even though I'd seen she'd already read it, and said, "Thank you, Maya." Then she followed Derek out to the car. Told him what, I wondered, but it wasn't my business. Couples had private matters. Maybe it was about a surprise for Derek. Maybe it was about a career decision. Maybe it was nothing. Or maybe Lauren was trying to tell Derek something he didn't want to hear, and her friend Jess was pushing her to finally speak up. I thought about that text message for days. By March, the wedding was taking shape. Ashford Estate was booked and deposits were paid. Charles Whitmore was locked in for photography. Belmont Strings for the ceremony. The Manhattan Collective for the reception. Celestial Florals for flowers, all white roses and hydrangeas, nothing personal, nothing unique. Morrison House for catering. They'd done the governor's daughter's wedding. Derek mentioned this 5 times. Everything was impressive. Everything was prestigious. Everything was expensive. And Lauren was disappearing. Not literally, not yet, but every time I saw her, there was less of her. Less weight on her already thin frame. Less energy. Less presence. She'd gone from quiet to nearly silent. Our mid-March meeting was held at Derek's downtown office rather than my place. His suggestion, his schedule. Lauren arrived separately, her own car now, I noticed, 20 minutes early. I arrived 15 minutes early and found her in the building's lobby, sitting in a corner chair, staring at nothing. "Lauren?" I approached carefully. "Are you okay? You look—" I didn't finish the sentence. She looked terrible. Her skin had a grayish undertone. Her hair, usually sleek and shiny, looked dull. Her hands were shaking slightly as she held her phone. "I'm fine," she said, but her voice was weak. "Just not feeling great today, stomach bug or something. Have you seen a doctor?" "It's fine. It's just stress. Wedding planning, you know." She tried to smile, failed. "Derek says I worry too much, that I need to relax. Derek says, everything was Derek says. Never what Lauren thought, wanted, or felt. Always what Derek said. The meeting itself was brief. Derek had precisely 35 minutes. His assistant had emailed me the exact time frame. We reviewed the invitation design, thick cardstock, engraved, formal as hell, no personality whatsoever, and confirmed the final timeline for the day. "Lauren will need to arrive at the venue by 10 a.m. for hair and makeup," I said, reviewing my notes. "That gives us 4 hours before the ceremony, which is plenty of time for photos and for her to relax." "Fine," Derek said. "Do you have your maid of honor finalized?" I asked. "I need to coordinate her schedule as well." "I'm not having a bridal party," Lauren said quietly. It was the first thing she'd said in the entire meeting. I looked up, surprised. "No, not even one attendant?" "It's not necessary," Derek answered for her. "We're keeping the ceremony simple and elegant. No need for a crowd at the altar." But that wasn't how he'd phrased it a month ago. A month ago, he'd said Lauren didn't have close girlfriends. Now it was a stylistic choice. "Okay," I said slowly. "Derek, what about a best man?" "My brother, Marcus. He's flying in from London the week before." So Derek got a best man, but Lauren got no one standing beside her, no one to hold her bouquet during the vows, no one to help her with her enormous dress, no one to lean on if she got nervous. Just her, alone at the altar with Derek. "I'll need Marcus's contact information to coordinate his timeline," I said. "My assistant will send it," Derek said, checking his watch. "Is that everything? I have a 3:30 that I can't miss." "Just one more thing." I pulled out the menu selection forms. "The caterer needs your final entree choices by next week. Lauren, you'd mentioned you prefer fish. Did you want the Chilean sea bass or the salmon?" Lauren opened her mouth to answer, but then closed it again. Looked at Derek. "Neither," Derek said. "Lauren's been having some digestive issues. She'll do the filet mignon, cooked well done, easier on the stomach." Lauren's face was carefully blank, but I saw her jaw tighten, just for a second. "Lauren," I addressed her directly. "Is that what you'd prefer?" A long pause. Derek was already standing, ready to leave. "That's fine," she said finally. "The filet is fine." After they left, Derek first, Lauren trailing behind, I sat in that conference room and stared at my notes. Something was wrong. Something beyond wedding stress or cold feet or a domineering fiancé. Something deeper. Lauren was sick. Visibly sick. And getting sicker. But people get sick for lots of reasons. Stress can manifest physically. Extreme dieting can cause fatigue and weakness. Maybe she was anemic. Maybe she had an anxiety disorder. Maybe she had a chronic condition she hadn't disclosed. Maybe I was overthinking everything because I didn't like Derek and was looking for reasons to justify my discomfort with him. I called my best friend Jess that night. Jess is a corporate lawyer, sharp, analytical, no nonsense. Hypothetically, I said after we'd exchanged pleasantries, if you were planning a wedding for a couple and the bride seemed sick, like genuinely ill, losing weight, fatigued, but she insisted she was fine, what would you do? Hypothetically? Jess's voice was dry. Or are we talking about an actual couple? Actual couple. June wedding. He's controlling, she's disappearing, and something feels wrong, but I can't put my finger on what. Have you talked to her? Privately, I mean. Without him there? She's never alone. He schedules everything. The few moments I've had with her solo, she just says she's fine and shuts down. Red flag, Jess said immediately. Classic pattern of control. He isolates her, makes all the decisions, controls access. Maya, this sounds like... I know what it sounds like, I interrupted. But I'm a wedding planner, not a therapist. I can't diagnose their relationship dynamic. And she's an adult making her own choices. Is she, though, making choices, or is she just going along with his choices? I didn't have an answer for that. Keep an eye on her, Jess said finally. Document anything that seems off. And Maya? Trust your gut. You've been doing this for 18 years. If something feels wrong, it probably is. I documented everything. I kept detailed notes of every meeting, every comment, every moment where Derek spoke for Lauren, or Lauren looked at Derek before answering. I told myself I was being thorough for professional reasons, in case any questions arose later about the planning process. But really, I was keeping records because some part of me knew. Some part of me was already preparing evidence, even though I didn't yet know what kind of evidence I'd need. April brought warmer weather and more meetings. The wedding was now 2 months away. Everything was falling into place, at least on paper. Vendors were confirmed. Deposits were paid, timelines were finalized, but Lauren kept getting worse. And I kept noticing things I couldn't explain. Little things, strange things, things that didn't make sense until much later, they suddenly did. In part 2, I'll tell you about the day Derek brought Lauren soup during one of our meetings, and why I remember thinking it smelled wrong. I'll tell you about the venue walkthrough, where Lauren nearly fainted and what Derek said when I suggested she see a doctor. I'll tell you about the invitation that almost didn't get sent, and the conversation I overheard that I wasn't supposed to hear, because this story isn't just about a wedding that never happened. It's about the moment I realized that the woman in the white dress wasn't suffering from wedding stress or cold feet or nerves. She was being murdered, slowly, methodically, by the man who was supposed to love her. And the wedding I was planning so carefully, the flowers, the menu, the timeline, the perfect June ceremony was meant to be her funeral. I just didn't know it yet. April in my line of work is chaos. Spring weddings are in full swing, which means I'm juggling multiple events every weekend while simultaneously planning summer ceremonies. Lauren and Derek's June 15th wedding was one of 7 I had scheduled between May and August, but it was consuming more of my mental energy than all the others combined, not because it was complicated. Logistically, it was one of the simpler weddings I'd ever planned. Derek's systematic approach meant every decision was made efficiently. No waffling between color schemes, no last-minute vendor changes, no family drama requiring mediation. No. What consumed me was the growing certainty that something was deeply fundamentally wrong. Our first April meeting was scheduled for the 4th, a Tuesday afternoon. The plan was to do a full venue walkthrough at the Ashford estate, finalize the ceremony setup, and confirm the floor plan for the reception. Lauren arrived early. Again. I pulled into the Ashford parking lot at 1:50 p.m. for our 2:00 p.m. meeting and found Lauren already there, sitting in her BMW with the engine running. Through the window, I could see her hunched over the steering wheel, forehead resting on her hands. I parked next to her and got out. Tapped gently on her window. She jumped. Actually jumped, like I'd startled her out of a deep thought, or a deep despair. When she rolled down the window, I saw her face was streaked with tears. Lauren. I crouched down to be at her eye level. What's wrong? Nothing. She wiped at her face quickly, smudging her mascara. I'm fine, just emotional, wedding stuff. You don't look fine. You look... I stopped myself. You look like you're grieving. You look like you're attending a funeral, not planning a wedding. You look upset. Do you want to postpone? We can reschedule the walkthrough. No. Her response was immediate, almost panicked. No, Derek's on his way. He's expecting us to do this today. He has the afternoon blocked out. Derek's expecting? Derek has it blocked out. Never what Lauren wanted or needed. Lauren. I kept my voice gentle but firm. This is your wedding. If you need a break, if you need time to... I'm fine, she repeated, and this time her voice was harder, defensive. She got out of the car, pulling her sunglasses from her purse and sliding them on to hide her red-rimmed eyes. Let's just do the walkthrough. Please. I wanted to push, wanted to ask the questions that had been building in my mind for months. Are you okay? Really okay? Do you want to marry this man? Are you safe? But you can't force someone to talk when they're not ready. And technically, crying before a wedding walkthrough wasn't that unusual. Brides got emotional. Stress manifested in different ways, except this didn't feel like happy tears or stress tears. This felt like trapped tears, desperate tears. Patricia, the venue manager, met us in the lobby. Maya, lovely to see you. And you must be Lauren. She extended a hand. Congratulations on your upcoming. She stopped mid-sentence. I saw her eyes flicker over Lauren's face, taking in the obvious signs of crying, the gauntness, the exhaustion. Thank you, Lauren said quietly, shaking Patricia's hand. Is everything all right? Patricia asked carefully. Just emotional, I said quickly, trying to smooth over the awkwardness. Big day coming up. Lauren, should we wait for Derek before we start the tour? He's 10 minutes out. Lauren checked her phone. We can start without him. But we didn't, because the moment we stepped into the grand ballroom, the space where the ceremony and reception would be held, Lauren's legs gave out. Not dramatically, not like a faint. She just stopped supporting her own weight. Crumpled toward the floor like someone had unplugged her. Patricia and I both lunged forward, catching her under the arms before she hit the hardwood. Lauren! I held her up, feeling how light she was. Too light. Like holding a bird. Patricia, get her a chair. Patricia rushed to grab one of the ballroom chairs while I helped Lauren stay upright. Her skin was cold and clammy. Her breathing was shallow. I'm okay, Lauren whispered, but she clearly wasn't. Just dizzy. Stood up too fast. You didn't stand up. You were already standing. I eased her into the chair. Patricia brought over. Put your head between your knees. Patricia, can you get some water? Patricia hurried off. I knelt in front of Lauren, watching her color. Gray undertones, lips slightly blue. This wasn't nerves. This was medical. Lauren, have you eaten today? Yes. Breakfast. What did you have? Just coffee. And some toast. Coffee and toast. For a woman who probably weighed less than 100 pounds now, no wonder she was dizzy. When was the last time you saw a doctor? I asked. She looked up at me, and for just a second, I saw something in her eyes. Fear, yes, but also calculation, like she was trying to decide what to tell me. I have a doctor's appointment next week, she said finally. Good, that's good. Because Lauren, I'm not a medical professional, but you need to see someone. You're losing weight, you're exhausted, you're dizzy. This isn't just wedding stress. I know. Her voice was so quiet, I almost didn't hear it. I know something's wrong. Before I could respond, I heard footsteps echoing across the ballroom. Derek strode in, phone to his ear, finishing a conversation. Handle it by Friday. I don't care what you have to do. Make it happen. He hung up, pocketing his phone, and finally looked at us. His eyes landed on Lauren sitting in the chair, me kneeling in front of her. What happened? Not concerned, annoyed. Like we'd caused an inconvenience. Lauren got dizzy, I said, standing. She needs to rest for a minute. She's fine. Derek came closer, looking down at Lauren. You just need to eat more, babe. I keep telling you you're dieting too hard for the dress. Babe, it was the first term of endearment I'd heard him choose, and it sounded wrong. Performative, like he'd read that fiancés were supposed to use pet names. I'm okay, Lauren said, starting to stand. I put a hand on her shoulder. Give yourself another minute, I said firmly. Derek's eyes flicked to my hand. On Lauren's shoulder, then back to my face. Something cold moved through his expression. Just for a second. Then the polished mask returned. Maya's right, he said, his voice carefully warm. Take your time. Patricia, was it? Could you bring Lauren something with sugar? Orange juice if you have it. Patricia, who'd been hovering with a water bottle, nodded and hurried off again. Derek sat in the chair next to Lauren, still not touching her, just sitting parallel. "You scared me," he said, and I could tell he was performing now, playing the concerned fiancé. "Have you been taking your vitamins?" "Yes," Lauren said. "The ones I got you, the special prenatal formula?" "Prenatal." I looked at Lauren sharply. "Are you pregnant?" "No," she said quickly, too quickly. "No, Derek he thinks they're good for hair and nails, for the wedding photos." "Prenatal vitamins have extra nutrients," Derek explained smoothly. "Biotin, folic acid. My sister took them before her wedding, and her skin was incredible." It was a reasonable explanation. Women did take prenatal vitamins for beauty benefits. But something about the way he said it, the way he emphasized that Lauren was taking the ones he got her. "Where do you get them?" I asked, keeping my voice casual. "Ordered them online," Derek said. "Specialty brand. Much better than the drugstore stuff. Specialty brand." Ordered online, not from her doctor. From him. I filed it away in the growing catalog of strange details. Patricia returned with orange juice and some crackers. Lauren sipped the juice slowly, and gradually color returned to her face. After 10 minutes, she insisted she was fine to continue the walkthrough. The rest of the venue tour was tense. Derek walked slightly ahead, pointing out where he wanted things positioned. The arch for the ceremony, the head table for the reception, the dance floor. Lauren trailed behind, quiet, occasionally touching the walls or chairs as if to steady herself. I kept close to her, ready to catch her if she fell again. We were standing in the bridal suite, the room where Lauren would get ready on the wedding day, when Derek got a call and stepped into the hallway to take it. The moment he left, Lauren turned to me. "Maya." Her voice was urgent, low. "I need to tell you something." My heart rate spiked. "Okay, what is it?" She opened her mouth, closed it, looked toward the door where Derek was visible through the window, pacing as he talked on the phone. She stopped again. Tears welled in her eyes. I can't. "It's okay," I said gently, moving closer. "Whatever it is, you can tell me." "I'm scared," she whispered. "Of what? The wedding? Marriage?" "Lauren, if you don't want to—" "No." She cut me off. "Not that. I mean, yes, but I'm scared of— I can't—" She pressed her hands to her face. "God, I sound crazy." "You don't sound crazy. You sound scared." "Tell me what you're scared of." She looked at the door again. Derek was still on the phone, but wrapping up. "I think something's wrong with me," she said finally. "Medically wrong. I've been feeling sick for months, getting worse. But Derek keeps saying it's just stress and dieting. And my doctor says all my tests are normal and maybe it is just in my head." But Derek ended his call. Started walking back toward the bridal suite. "I don't feel like myself anymore," Lauren finished in a rush. "I don't feel like me." Derek opened the door. "Everything okay in here?" "Fine," Lauren said immediately, wiping her eyes, just getting emotional looking at the room. Derek smiled, that polished practice smile. "It's going to be a beautiful day. You're going to be a beautiful bride." He put his arm around her shoulders. I watched Lauren's body language. She didn't lean into him, didn't relax. If anything, she tensed, but she smiled, put her hand over his hand, played the role of happy bride. And I understood, suddenly, what I was watching. This wasn't just a controlling relationship. This wasn't just a bride with cold feet. Lauren was performing. Every moment she was with Derek, she was acting, playing a part, being who he needed her to be. The question was, why? What was she afraid would happen if she stopped performing? We finished the walkthrough, confirmed the timeline. Derek left first, citing another meeting. Lauren lingered like she always did. "Maya," she said when we were alone in the parking lot, "can I ask you something?" "Of course." "In all the weddings you've planned, have you ever had a couple call it off, like really close to the wedding?" My instincts were screaming now. "Yes, a few times." "What happened?" "Different reasons. Cold feet, infidelity discovered. One couple realized they wanted different things in life, and it was better to stop before making it legal. Did they—" She paused. "Did they regret it, calling it off?" "Not the ones I kept in touch with. Most of them said it was the hardest decision they'd ever made, but the right one." Lauren nodded slowly, processing. "Lauren, are you thinking about calling off the wedding?" Long pause, cars passed on the road behind us. A bird called from somewhere in the trees surrounding the estate. I don't know, she said finally. I don't know what I'm thinking. I feel like I'm on a train that's moving too fast and I don't know how to get off. You can always get off, I said carefully. It's never too late. Even if we're 2 months out, even if deposits are paid, even if invitations are mailed, none of that matters if this isn't what you want. It's not that simple. Why not? She looked at me, and I saw something in her face that made my blood run cold. It wasn't just fear, it was resignation. Like she'd already decided there was no escape. My father and Derek have business. Together now, she said quietly. They've been planning a merger for the past year. My father's company and Derek's firm, it's all connected to us, to the wedding. If I call it off, if I embarrass Derek. She didn't finish the sentence. Didn't have to. Her father had basically sold her. Maybe not explicitly, maybe not consciously. But the business merger was contingent on the marriage. Lauren wasn't just a bride. She was a business asset, a contract being fulfilled. Lauren, I said carefully, your father would want you to be happy. If you told him, my father wants the merger, she interrupted. He's been working toward this for 3 years. He and Derek have already signed preliminary agreements. There are investors involved, board members. If I call it off now, it's not your responsibility to make a business deal work by marrying someone. You don't understand. Her voice was flat. My father's been grooming me for this my whole life. The right schools, the right social circles, the right image. I'm supposed to marry well. Marry someone who enhances the family business. That's what daughters like me do. Lauren, this isn't the 1800s. You're not property. You don't have to. I should go. She cut me off, pulling her keys from her purse. Derek will be wondering why I'm not home yet. She got in her car before I could say anything else. I watched her drive away, feeling helpless and increasingly certain that I was watching someone disappear. Not physically, not yet. But the person Lauren Castellano actually was, whoever that was beneath the performance, was being erased piece by piece. And I didn't know how to stop it. That night, I did something I'd never done in 18 years of wedding planning. I called the bride's father. Vincent Castellano's office number was on the paperwork, emergency contact for the wedding day. I stared at my phone for 20 minutes before I dialed. His assistant answered, professional, brisk. Castellano Development, how may I direct your call? This is Maya Sinclair. I'm planning Vincent Castellano's daughter's wedding. I need to speak with him about an urgent matter regarding the event. Mr. Castellano is in meetings until 6 p.m. May I take a message? It's urgent, I repeated. It's about Lauren. A pause, then, please hold. 2 minutes later, Vincent Castellano's voice came through the line, deep, authoritative, impatient. This is Vincent. Is Lauren all right? Mr. Castellano, I'm Maya Sinclair, your daughter's wedding planner. I'm calling because I'm concerned about Lauren's health. Silence. Then, her health? She's losing weight rapidly. She's exhausted, dizzy, clearly unwell. I encouraged her to see a doctor, but I wanted to make you aware that, and Lauren's under a doctor's care, Vincent interrupted. Dr. Morrison, he's the family physician. Lauren sees him regularly. I'm glad to hear that, but Mr. Castellano, with respect, what I'm seeing is concerning. Has Dr. Morrison identified any issues? Lauren's always been high-strung, Vincent said dismissively. Anxious. She gets stressed easily and it manifests physically. Morrison prescribed her something for anxiety. She'll be fine. High-strung. Anxious. The same words I'd heard from Derek. Like they'd workshopped the explanation together. Mr. Castellano, I've been planning weddings for 18 years. I've seen stressed brides. This is different. Lauren seems like Miss Sinclair. His voice turned cold. I appreciate your concern, but Lauren's health is being managed by medical professionals and her family. Your job is to plan the wedding. I suggest you focus on that. Click. He'd hung up. I sat there holding my phone, feeling the dismissal like a slap. Your job is to plan the wedding. Stay in your lane. Don't ask questions. Don't interfere. But what if I was the only one asking questions? What if everyone else in Lauren's life had decided her symptoms were just anxiety, just stress, just her being high-strung? What if they were all wrong? I called Jess again that night. I think she's being abused, I said without preamble. The bride I told you about, I think he's controlling her, and her family either doesn't see it or doesn't care because there's money involved. Have you seen evidence of physical abuse? Jess asked. No. But she's deteriorating. She's thin. She's sick. She's scared. She almost told me something today, and then Derek came back and she shut down. Maya, you can't force someone to leave an abusive relationship. All you can do is let her know she has options and support her if she decides to get out. What if she doesn't decide? What if she just goes through with it because she thinks she has to? Then she makes that choice. Jess said gently, it's not fair. It's not right. But it's her choice to make. What if she dies making it? Silence. Then, what do you mean dies? I don't know. Jess, she looks like she's dying. I don't mean that metaphorically. She looks physically ill. What if this isn't just emotional abuse? What if there's something else happening? Like what? I don't know, I admitted. Maybe nothing. Maybe I'm being paranoid. Maybe she really is just stressed and dieting too hard and I'm seeing patterns that aren't there. Or maybe your gut is telling you something's wrong and you should trust it, Jess said. Document everything, every concerning thing you see, write it down with dates. If something happens, if she asks for help, you'll have a record. So I documented. I wrote down every meeting, every comment, every moment where Lauren looked scared, or Derek looked cold, or something felt wrong. I noted the vitamins Derek had gotten her, the way she looked at him before answering questions, the weight loss, the dizziness, the comment about the business merger. I documented it all. Telling myself I was being thorough. Really, I was building a case. For what? I didn't yet know. Our next meeting was at my office, scheduled for April 18th. 2 months exactly until the wedding. This was the timeline meeting, the detailed minute-by-minute schedule for the wedding day. Hair and makeup times, photo session timeline, when the ceremony would start, when dinner would be served, when toasts would happen. Every single moment of June 15th, planned down to the minute. Derek had prepared a preliminary timeline himself. He emailed it to me the night before, and when I opened it, I was stunned by the level of detail. He'd accounted for everything, down to when Lauren should drink water every 30 minutes, and when she should reapply lipstick after cocktail hour before entrances. It wasn't a wedding timeline. It was a military operation. I was making notes on his draft when I heard 2 cars pull up. Through my window, I saw Derek's Mercedes arrive first, and Lauren's BMW 30 seconds later. They'd driven separately, but coordinated their arrival to the exact same time. Control. Everything was controlled. They came in together, Derek's hand on Lauren's lower back guiding her. She was wearing a loose sweater despite the warm April day, and I realized with a sinking feeling that she was probably trying to hide how thin she'd become. Maya. Derek shook my hand. Firm grip, as always. Thanks for accommodating our schedule. Of course. Can I get either of you some tea? Water? Water for Lauren, Derek said. She needs to stay hydrated. She's been having headaches. I can ask for myself, Lauren said quietly. Derek's hand tightened slightly on her back, just for a second. Of course you can, babe. I'm just trying to help. I got water for Lauren and tea for myself. Derek declined anything. We settled into our usual spots, me at my desk, them on the sofa across from me. I pulled up the timeline on my laptop. Derek, you've done an incredible job with the preliminary schedule, very thorough. I believe in being prepared, he said. Lauren gets overwhelmed by too many decisions at once, so I tried to structure everything clearly. There it was again, speaking for her, defining her as someone who got overwhelmed, needed help, couldn't handle complexity. Lauren, what do you think of the timeline? I asked, deliberately directing the question to her. She looked at the screen. Scrolled through Derek's document. I watched her face for any reaction, approval, concern, anything. It's very detailed, she said finally. Is there anything you'd like to change? She opened her mouth, closed it, looked at Derek. I think Derek covered everything, she said. We spent 90 minutes going through every detail. I made adjustments based on the venue's requirements and the vendor's timelines. Derek took notes on his tablet. Lauren sat quietly, occasionally sipping her water, barely speaking. Halfway through the meeting, Derek's phone buzzed. He glanced at it and frowned. I need to take this, he said, standing. It's Tokyo, time sensitive. I'll just be in your driveway, Maya, if that's all right. Of course. He left, pressing the phone to his ear as he walked out. Through the window, I could see him pacing in the driveway, animated, clearly in business mode. The moment the door closed, Lauren seemed to deflate. Like she'd been holding herself rigid and could finally relax, I took the opening. Lauren, are you okay? Really? I'm tired, she said. It wasn't an answer to my question, but it was honest. The headaches Derek mentioned, how long have you been having them? A few weeks. They're just tension headaches. From stress. Have you seen the doctor your father mentioned? Dr. Morrison? Her face tightened. Yes. He said everything's normal. Gave me a prescription for anxiety. Derek picks it up for me. Derek picks it up. Derek orders her vitamins. Derek tells her to drink water. Derek makes all her appointments. Derek. Lauren, I'm going to say something, and I need you to hear it, okay? She looked at me warily. If you want to stop this wedding, I will help you, I said quietly but firmly. I will handle all the cancellations. I will deal with all the vendors. I will call everyone who needs to be called. You don't have to marry someone because your father has business with them. You don't have to go through with this because deposits are paid or invitations are sent. You can change your mind. You're allowed to change your mind. Tears filled her eyes. You don't understand. Then help me understand. Tell me what I'm missing. My whole life I've been prepared for this, she said, and her voice was shaking now. The right schools, the right activities, the right friends, the right image. I was taught how to be a wife to a powerful man. That was my entire education, even when I was getting my degrees. Everything was about becoming the kind of woman who could support a man like Derek. But what about what you want? What I want doesn't matter, she said it flatly, like stating a fact. I'm 28 years old. I've never had a real job. My career was at my father's company, a made-up position. I've never lived alone. I've never made a major decision without my father's approval. If I call off this wedding, I have nothing. No money of my own, no career, no home. My father will disown me. He said as much. Derek will destroy my reputation. I'll be the girl who couldn't seal the deal. You'd be the woman who chose herself, I said, who decided her life was worth more than a business transaction. You make it sound so simple. It's not simple. It's the hardest thing you'd ever do. But Lauren, you look sick. You look exhausted. You look scared. Whatever's happening here, it's not worth your health. It's not worth your life. Before she could respond, Derek opened the door. Sorry about that. Crisis averted. Where were we? Lauren wiped her eyes quickly. Just going over the photo timeline. Right. Derek sat back down next to her, and I saw Lauren physically shift away from me, back into her role, back into the performance. We finished the meeting without any more private moments. As they were getting ready to leave, Derek pulled a thermos from his bag. Almost forgot, he said, handing it to Lauren. I brought you soup. You said you weren't feeling well this morning. Thank you, Lauren said, taking it. Chicken and rice. Your favorite. Made it this morning before work. Lauren smiled. It almost looked genuine. You're so thoughtful. They left together. I watched through the window as Derek waited for Lauren to get in her car, then tapped on her window. She rolled it down. He leaned in, said something I couldn't hear, kissed her forehead, the picture of a devoted fiancé. But as he walked back to his own car, I saw his face. The smile dropped instantly, like taking off a mask, and I thought about the thermos of soup. Thought about Derek's insistence that Lauren take the vitamins he ordered, the prescription he picked up, the timeline that included when she should drink water, the way he monitored her intake, her hydration, her medication, the way he was constantly giving her things to consume. Stop it, I told myself. You're seeing conspiracies where there aren't any. Men bring their sick fiancés soup. That's normal, that's sweet, except Lauren looked sicker every time I saw her. Except her doctor said nothing was wrong. Except her symptoms, weight loss, fatigue, headaches, dizziness, stomach issues, could be caused by a lot of things, including poison. The thought came unbidden, and I immediately tried to dismiss it as insane. People don't poison their fiancés. This was real life, not a murder mystery. Derek was a successful investment banker, not a killer. Lauren's family was involved. Her doctor was involved. If something nefarious was happening, someone would notice. But what if everyone was explaining away the symptoms? What if the doctor was treating the symptoms as anxiety because that's what Derek had suggested they were? What if her father was dismissing her illness as being high-strung because that's what Derek had told him? What if Derek had carefully constructed a narrative? Lauren is stressed, Lauren is anxious, Lauren is dieting too hard, and everyone believed it because why wouldn't they? Why would a man poison the woman he was about to marry? Money, I thought, insurance, the business merger that was tied to the marriage. What if the merger agreement included life insurance policies? What if Derek needed Lauren alive long enough to marry her, but not much longer? I was spiraling. I knew I was spiraling. This was paranoid thinking, conspiracy theory thinking, but I couldn't stop thinking about that soup. I grabbed my phone and searched. Symptoms of poisoning. The results were overwhelming. Different poisons cause different symptoms. But when I searched specifically for slow poisoning symptoms, one particular substance kept appearing. Arsenic. I clicked on a medical website. Symptoms of chronic arsenic poisoning: weight loss, fatigue and weakness, headaches, stomach pain and nausea, dizziness, skin changes, hair loss, confusion, or difficulty concentrating. Every symptom on that list Lauren had, but lots of conditions caused those symptoms. Chronic stress, eating disorders, autoimmune diseases, anxiety disorders. I was seeing patterns where there might not be any. Still, I couldn't let it go. I called the one person I knew who might have medical insight without thinking I was insane. My college roommate, Rachel, who was now an ER nurse. Hypothetically, I said after we'd caught up briefly, if someone was being slowly poisoned, I'm talking about a scenario for a podcast I'm considering starting, how would you know? What kind of poison? Rachel asked, immediately interested. She loved medical mysteries. I don't know. Something that would cause weight loss, fatigue, dizziness, stomach issues, headaches. Something that could be explained away as stress or anxiety. That's a lot of poisons, actually. Could be arsenic, could be thallium, could be certain heavy metals, could also be a dozen medical conditions. What's the context? Young woman, late 20s, getting married in 2 months. Been progressively getting sicker for the past 4 months. Her doctor says it's anxiety. Has she been tested for anything? I don't know. She mentioned her doctor said everything was normal, but I don't know what tests were run. Here's the thing about poisoning, Rachel said. It's really hard to detect unless you're specifically looking for it. Standard blood work wouldn't catch most poisons. You'd need targeted testing, toxicology screens for specific substances, and doctors don't usually order those tests unless they have a reason to suspect poisoning. So someone could be poisoning her and the doctor would miss it? Absolutely, especially if the symptoms are being explained away as something else. Anxiety, stress, eating disorder. Those would all fit the symptom profile you described. Why would a doctor suspect poison? They wouldn't, I said slowly, unless someone suggested it. Right, and even then, it's a serious accusation. You'd need evidence, or at least strong suspicion. After I hung up with Rachel, I sat at my desk for a long time, staring at my notes. The documented meetings, the timeline of Lauren's decline, the list of symptoms, the way Derek controlled everything she consumed. I had suspicion. What I didn't have was evidence, or any way to get it without crossing serious professional and ethical boundaries. I was a wedding planner, not an investigator. This wasn't my place. This wasn't my job. But if I was right, if Derek was poisoning Lauren, then planning this wedding wasn't just unethical. It was being complicit in murder. And if I was wrong, if I made accusations and I was wrong, I'd destroy a man's reputation, ruin a wedding, lose my business, possibly face legal consequences. Either way, I couldn't win unless I could find proof. The question was, how? The answer came from an unexpected source. Derek's assistant. Her name was Michelle Young, and I'd been coordinating with her for months. Schedules, payments, RSVPs. Every email was efficient, professional, slightly cold, the kind of assistant who protected her boss's time ruthlessly. But on May 3rd, 3 weeks after the soup incident, Michelle called me directly. My phone showed Morrison and Stokes on the caller ID. Maya Sinclair, I answered. Miss Sinclair, this is Michelle Yang, Derek Hastings' assistant. Her voice was quiet, urgent. I need to meet with you, today if possible, in person. My heart rate spiked. Is everything all right with the wedding? I'd rather not discuss it on the phone. Can you meet me for coffee? There's a Starbucks on 5th and Madison. I can be there in 20 minutes. I was supposed to be working on centerpiece designs for another wedding, but something in Michelle's voice made me say, I'll be there in 15. I got there in 12. Michelle was already at a corner table, hunched over a coffee she wasn't drinking. She was younger than I'd imagined from her emails, maybe 26, Asian American, expensively dressed, with the kind of grooming that came from working in the high finance. She looked terrified. Michelle. I slid into the chair across from her. She looked up, and I saw a dark circle under her eyes that even expert concealer couldn't quite hide. Thank you for coming, she said. I didn't know who else to call. I can't go to HR. I can't go to the police. I can't. She stopped herself, taking a shaky breath. I think Derek is hurting Lauren, and I think I might be helping him do it. The words hung between us. Tell me everything, I said. Michelle looked around to make sure no one was close enough to overhear. Then she leaned forward. I've been Derek's assistant for 3 years, she began. He's demanding, he's exacting, but I've worked for demanding bosses before. That's not unusual in finance. But about 6 months ago, he started asking me to do things that seemed odd. What kind of things, Elia? Personal errands that had nothing to do with work. He'd have me pick up prescriptions from a pharmacy across town, not his usual pharmacy, a different one. He'd have me order supplements and vitamins from specific websites. Not Amazon, not mainstream sites, but obscure ones. He had me coordinate with a locksmith to change the locks on an apartment he'd bought, which turned out to be the apartment he moved Lauren into after they got engaged. My skin was crawling. He moved her into an apartment he owned? Yes. Her name's not on the lease. He pays the rent to himself, essentially. She doesn't have keys to anywhere else. When I asked why she needed new locks, he said it was for security, but he had me make only 2 sets of keys. Both went to him. She doesn't have her own key to her own apartment. He gives her one. But it's his to give. Michelle's hands were shaking around her coffee cup. And here's the thing. I started noticing a pattern. Every time Derek had me order these specific supplements or pick up these specific prescriptions, Lauren would get sicker. I'd see her when she came to the office for lunch meetings. Each time she looked worse. What kind of supplements was he ordering? Michelle pulled out her phone. I kept records. I didn't know why. At the time, just instinct, I guess. Felt like something I should document. She pulled up a notes app and turned the phone toward me. I saw a list of websites and product names. Some I recognized, standard vitamin brands, but others, what is this? I pointed to one entry, Aqua Pure Solutions, product Ombre A7749. That's what made me start questioning everything, Michelle said. I ordered it thinking it was a water filter or something. But when I looked up the company, they're a chemical supply company, industrial cleaners, laboratory supplies. The product number didn't match anything on their public website. Did you see what was in the package? No. And Derek always had me send those deliveries to his home, and he'd pick them up himself. But I got curious after the 3rd order, so I called the company pretending I needed to reorder. The person I spoke with asked if I needed the same concentration of arsenic trioxide as last time. The air left my lungs. Arsenic, I said. Arsenic trioxide, industrial grade. The person said it's commonly used in laboratories and semiconductor manufacturing. When I asked what else it could be used for, they said pest control and... She paused, her voice dropping to barely a whisper. Research purposes. How much did he order? 3 separate orders over 4 months, according to the invoices I processed, enough to be lethal if consumed over time. We sat in silence for a moment. Around us, the coffee shop continued its normal rhythm. Espresso machines hissing, people typing on laptops, conversations about work and weather and weekend plans, normal life, while we discussed murder. Why are you telling me this now? I asked finally. Why not the police? Because I don't have proof, Michelle said, and I heard the frustration in her voice. I have invoices for chemicals that could have legitimate uses. I have prescriptions that could be real. I have observations about Lauren getting sicker, but I'm not a doctor. I'm his assistant. If I go to the police and I'm wrong, I lose my job. I get blacklisted from the industry. Derek could sue me for defamation. If I go and I'm right, but there's not enough evidence, Derek gets warned and he... She stopped. If he knows someone's onto him, what does he do? Speed up whatever he's planning? Hurt Lauren worse? So why come to me? Because you're planning the wedding. You see them together. You see Lauren regularly. And I've read your emails. You ask questions about Lauren's well-being. You're paying attention. I thought maybe together we could figure out what to do. Or you could convince Lauren to get tested or something. I don't know. I just know I can't do nothing. I pulled out my own phone and opened my notes, the documentation I'd been keeping for weeks. I turned it toward Michelle. I've been tracking her decline too, I said. Every meeting, every symptom, every strange thing Derek says or does. I've been thinking I was paranoid. Michelle scrolled through my notes, her face getting paler. When she looked up, her eyes were wet. We're not paranoid, she said. He's killing her. But we can't prove it, not yet. The wedding is in 6 weeks, Michelle said. What happens after they're married? Does he speed up the poisoning? How long does he plan to keep her alive? I thought about the business merger, about Vincent Castellano's investment in the wedding, about the life insurance policies that probably came with a marriage to a wealthy investment banker. Long enough for it not to be suspicious, I said slowly. Long enough that when she dies, it looks like a tragic illness. Young wife, devastated husband. No one suspects anything because she'd been sick for a while. Everyone saw it. Her doctor documented it. It's just very sad. So we have 6 weeks to stop a wedding and save her life, Michelle said. No pressure. We can't just stop the wedding. We have to get Lauren to safety. If we cancel the wedding, but she goes back to that apartment he controls, if she's still in contact with him, he'll find another way, Michelle finished. We need her to understand what's happening. We need her to leave him, and we need evidence to make sure he can't come after her. How do we get evidence? We can't break into his apartment. We can't steal his prescriptions or supplements. We need Lauren to voluntarily get tested for arsenic poisoning, which means we need to convince her that's what's happening, which means we need proof to show her, which we don't have. It's circular. Michelle was quiet for a moment thinking, then what if we don't need to convince her? What if we just need to save her? What do you mean? Derek is methodical. He's careful. He's been doing this slowly, making it look natural. But what if something happened that forced Lauren to go to a hospital? What if she had a medical emergency that required comprehensive testing? We can't make her sick just to get her tested, I said. That's no. But what if she's already on the verge of a medical emergency and we just made sure it happened somewhere safe? Somewhere with doctors who would test for everything? I understood what she was suggesting. The wedding day, if she collapses at the wedding, in front of 200 witnesses, at a venue where I've already coordinated with EMTs to be on standby, they'd take her to a hospital. They'd run every test. They'd find the arsenic. And Derek would be there, playing the concerned groom, with no idea that we orchestrated the whole thing. It was insane. It was dangerous. It was possibly illegal. It was also possibly the only way to save Lauren's life. How do we make sure she collapses at the right time? I asked. We can't control her body's reaction to the poison. No, but we can control what she consumes that day. Michelle's voice was gaining strength now that we had a plan, however crazy. Derek has me managing the wedding day timeline too. He's already told me he wants me there to coordinate things for him. I can make sure Lauren doesn't consume anything Derek gives her. No vitamins, no supplements, nothing he's prepared, which means she'll start going through withdrawal. Withdrawal from poison. If he's been giving her arsenic consistently, her body has adapted. If she suddenly stops getting it, she'll still feel awful, possibly worse at first, but differently awful. Acute symptoms rather than chronic. And if she's not getting any more poison, but she's stressed from the wedding day, she'll collapse. And when they test her blood, they'll find evidence of chronic poisoning even though she hasn't ingested any that day. Michelle nodded. It's not perfect. There are a dozen ways it could go wrong, but it's something. It's something, I agreed. But Michelle, if we do this, if we essentially force a medical emergency, we need to be prepared for the consequences. Derek will know something happened. He'll know someone interfered. Let him know. Once the arsenic is detected, once there's medical evidence, what can he do? He'll be under investigation immediately. He's a wealthy man with expensive lawyers. Medical evidence isn't always enough for a conviction. And in the meantime, if he suspects you or me, then we deal with it, Michelle said firmly. I didn't become his assistant to help him murder his fiancée. I can't live with myself if I do nothing. I looked at this young woman, 26 years old, risking her career, possibly her safety, to save someone she barely knew. Okay, I said, we do this, but we need to be smart. We need a detailed plan. And we need to make sure that when Lauren collapses, I'm the one who goes with her to the hospital, not Derek. How do we manage that? Leave that to me. I've been planning weddings for 18 years. I know how to orchestrate chaos. We spent the next 2 hours in that Starbucks planning what we hoped would be the wedding that never happened. Michelle would track Derek's movements on the wedding day, make sure I knew when he gave Lauren anything to consume. I would make sure Lauren stayed hydrated with water I personally provided. Michelle would accidentally delay the ceremony. A missing boutonniere, a problem with the sound system, anything to add stress and strain to Lauren's already compromised system. And when Lauren collapsed, not if, when, I would make sure the EMTs took her immediately, and I would go with her, citing my role as wedding planner and my knowledge of her medical history. Derek would be left at the venue with 200 confused guests, and by the time he got to the hospital, the test would already be underway. It was elaborate. It was risky. It was possibly the most ethically questionable thing I'd ever done in my career. It was also Lauren's best chance at survival. One more thing, Michelle said as we were getting ready to leave. Derek's been more erratic lately, more controlling. I think he knows the timeline is getting tight. I think he's planning to accelerate things after the wedding. What makes you think that? He had me order something new last week, not arsenic this time, something else. I haven't been able to identify what it was. The invoice just said pharmaceutical compound from a compounding pharmacy. But he picked it up himself and told me it was for after the honeymoon. After the honeymoon. After the marriage was legal and the merger was complete. Where are they going for the honeymoon, I asked. Maldives, private island resort. Very remote, very isolated. If she dies there, it's ruled an accident or natural causes in a foreign country. And Derek comes home a grieving widower, Michelle finished. That's why we have to do this at the wedding. It's our last chance while she's still in the country, still accessible to US doctors, still surrounded by witnesses. 6 weeks, I said. We have 6 weeks to save her life. And we'd better not waste them. The next 6 weeks were the most stressful of my career, not because of the actual wedding planning that was proceeding smoothly, all vendors confirmed, all details finalized. No, the stress came from the double life I was now living. By day, I was Maya Sinclair, professional wedding planner, coordinating Lauren and Derek's perfect June ceremony. By night, I was plotting to expose Derek as a murderer and save his bride's life. Michelle and I communicated through encrypted messaging apps. We met in person only twice more, both times in different coffee shops, both times carefully timed to avoid any chance of Derek seeing us together. She fed me information as she got it. Derek's schedule for the wedding day, his requests for the venue setup, his timeline for Lauren's mourning, every detail that might help us coordinate the collapse. And she gave me something else, copies of the invoices for the chemicals Derek had ordered. She'd taken photos of them before filing her own insurance policy, she said. If something happened to her, if Derek suspected she knew, she had the evidence backed up in 3 separate cloud accounts. If I disappear, she told me during our second meeting, and check the account I'm emailing you. Password is Lauren's birthday, plus her mother's maiden name. Everything is there. You're not going to disappear, I said, but my voice wasn't convincing. Just in case, she insisted. I also started documenting everything with video and audio. Every meeting with Lauren and Derek, I had my phone recording in my pocket. Legally questionable in my state. But if it came down to Lauren's life versus recording consent laws, I knew which one I'd choose. The recordings captured things I'd noticed but hadn't fully registered. Derek interrupting Lauren 47 times across 3 meetings. Derek touching her in ways that looked affectionate but were actually controlling. Hand on her back steering her, hand on her knee stopping her from standing, hand over hers preventing her from reaching for something. Derek saying, we think, and we want, and we've decided, when he meant I decided, and Lauren will agree. But the recordings also captured Lauren's voice getting weaker, her responses getting shorter, her energy visibly draining. By our final meeting on June 1st, 2 weeks before the wedding, Lauren could barely stay awake. I'm sorry, she said when she nearly nodded off during a discussion of the reception timeline. I haven't been sleeping well. You should rest, I said. We're in good shape. All the major decisions are made. You don't need to be at every final coordination meeting. She needs to be involved, Derek said firmly. This is her wedding too. But he said it like he was reminding her, like her involvement was an obligation, not a joy. Lauren looked at me, and for just a moment I saw a flash of something in her eyes, recognition, understanding, a plea for help. Then it was gone, and she was staring at her hands, again. Lauren, I said carefully, very aware that Derek was listening to every word. I want you to know that if anything changes, if you need anything, if you have any concerns at all in these final weeks, you can call me, day or night. That's part of my service. I'm here for my brides, not just for logistics, but for support. That won't be necessary, Derek said. Lauren has everything she needs. I'm sure she does. I'm just making sure she knows the option is there. Derek's eyes met mine, cold, assessing. For a moment, I wondered if he suspected. If somehow he knew that I knew, then he smiled. That's very thoughtful, Maya. Lauren's lucky to have such a dedicated planner. Dedicated. The word felt like a warning. After they left, I found something on my desk that hadn't been there before the meeting. A small business card, placed face down. I turned it over. It was Derek's business card, but on the back, written in what I recognized as Lauren's handwriting, were 3 words. Help me, please. My hand shook as I held the card. Lauren had managed to leave me a message. Under Derek's nose, during our meeting, she'd found a way to tell me she knew something was wrong. She was asking for help. I pulled up my phone and called Michelle immediately. She knows, I said when Michelle answered. Lauren knows something's wrong. She left me a message. What kind of message? I read her the words on the card. Michelle was quiet for a moment, then, this changes things. If she knows something's wrong, we can talk to her. We can tell her what we've found. We can get her to leave before the wedding. Or Derek finds out we talked to her, and he escalates immediately. Michelle, if he thinks he's losing control of the situation, he could kill her right now, Michelle finished. God, what do? We stick to the plan. Wedding day, public collapse, hospital testing, evidence, police. We're 12 days out. We can't risk deviating now. But she's asking for help. And we're helping her. Just not the way she probably thinks we will. If we pull her aside now, if we try to convince her to leave, Derek will know. He's watching her too closely. But on the wedding day, with 200 people present, with vendors and staff and witnesses everywhere, he can't control everything. That's when we act. 12 days, Michelle said. She needs to survive 12 more days. She will. She's made it this far. She can make it 12 more days. I hoped I was right. Those final 12 days felt like 12 years. I checked my phone obsessively, terrified I'd see news of a tragic accident. A young woman found dead in her apartment, accidental overdose, carbon monoxide poisoning, a fall down the stairs. But June 15th arrived, and Lauren was still alive. The weather was perfect, sunny, 72 degrees, light breeze. The kind of day that wedding planners dream of. The Ashford estate looked like something from a fairy tale, with white roses and hydrangeas everywhere, the string quartet practicing in the garden, and the grand ballroom set up with mathematical precision according to Derek's specifications. It was going to be a beautiful wedding. At least it was supposed to be. In part 3, I'll tell you about the wedding day itself. About the moment I saw Lauren in her dress and knew we were running out of time. About Derek's toast that made my blood run cold. About the ceremony that started exactly on schedule and ended in sirens and chaos. About the moment Lauren collapsed at the altar and everything I'd feared became terrifyingly real. About what the paramedics found, what the hospital discovered, and what happened when Derek Hastings realized that his carefully planned murder had just become a very public attempted homicide. Because sometimes the most beautiful weddings are the ones that never actually happen. And sometimes saving a bride means destroying everything she thought her life was supposed to be.
Before we continue, if you're enjoying this story, make sure to hit that subscribe button so you don't miss any of our upcoming tales. And while you're at it, drop a like and let us know what you think in the comments below. Now, let's get back to it.
I arrived at the Ashford estate at 6:47 a.m. The sun was just beginning to paint the sky in shades of pink and gold, and the grounds were already buzzing with activity. Florists arranging centerpieces, caterers setting up the kitchen, the string quartet doing sound checks. the photographer's assistant marking spots for optimal lighting. A wedding day is controlled chaos, and I'm usually the person who orchestrates that chaos into something beautiful. But today, I had a different role. Today, I was going to help a bride escape her own wedding by nearly killing her in front of 200 witnesses. My phone buzzed. Michelle, I'm here. Derek's schedule confirmed. He won't arrive until 12:30. Lauren's car service picks her up at 9:45, gets her here by 10:15. Hair and makeup start at 10:30. I texted back. Photographer arrives at 11. Derek insisted on pre-ceremony photos of Lauren alone. Changed it to 1:30 after ceremony was supposed to start. Bought us time. Smart. He'll be annoyed about the change. Good. Annoyed, Derek is distracted. Derek, how are you holding up? Terrified. You? Same. We can do this. We have to. I pocketed my phone and went to check on the bridal suite, the room where Lauren would spend the morning getting ready, and where I needed to make sure she didn't consume anything Derek had prepared for her. Patricia, the venue manager, met me in the hallway. Maya, good morning. Everything's coming together beautifully. The bride's room is all set up. Coffee service, pastries, champagne for toast. Actually, I interrupted, I need to make a change to the bridal suite setup. The bride has some food sensitivities I should have mentioned earlier. Can we remove all the food and beverages and let me bring in specific items I've arranged? Patricia looked confused but professional. Of course. Is everything all right? Just being cautious. You know how brides are on the big day, very particular about what they consume. I want to make sure everything's exactly right. I understand completely. I'll have the staff clear the room now. 20 minutes later, the bridal suite was empty of all consumables. I restocked it myself with water bottles I'd purchased that morning. Still sealed, impossible to tamper with. Fresh fruit I'd washed myself. Crackers in unopened packages. Nothing Derek could have touched. Nothing that could contain arsenic. Lauren needed to stay hydrated and maintain some energy, but I couldn't risk her consuming anything that might contain poison. It was a delicate balance. Keep her functional enough to make it to the ceremony, but don't let her ingest whatever Derek had been planning for her to take today. Michelle had warned me that Derek had given her specific instructions. Make sure Lauren takes her vitamins at 10 a.m. sharp. Make sure she drinks the protein shake he prepared for her. Make sure she stays on schedule. Those vitamins were currently in Michelle's possession, locked in her car. That protein shake would mysteriously spill before it ever reached Lauren's lips. Derek's carefully calibrated poison dosage for the wedding day would never be administered, which meant Lauren was about to go through something like withdrawal, combined with the massive stress of a wedding day, combined with months of accumulated arsenic already in her system. She was going to feel terrible, and when she walked down that aisle, she was going to be on the verge of collapse. That was the plan, anyway. At 10:22 a.m., a Blacktown car pulled up to the estate. Through the window, I watched Lauren get out. She was ready in her robe, hair in rollers, face bare of makeup. She moved slowly, carefully, like every step required conscious effort. Her mother emerged from the car. Behind her, talking on her phone, barely glancing at her daughter, I met them at the entrance. Lauren, good morning. How are you feeling? Lauren attempted a smile. It didn't reach her eyes. Nervous, excited, tired, all of it. That's completely normal. Come on up to the bridal suite. Everything's ready for you. Lauren's mother, Diane, finished her call and finally looked at her daughter. Really looked at her. I saw a concerned flash across her face. Sweetheart, are you feeling all right? You look pale. I'm fine, Mom. Just didn't sleep well. Did you eat breakfast? Derek made me a smoothie. Lauren's voice was flat. I drank some of it, which meant she'd consumed at least a partial dose of whatever Derek had prepared. My stomach tightened. We needed that arsenic out of her system, needed it detectable in her blood when she got to the hospital, but we also needed her conscious long enough to make it to the ceremony. Well, there's plenty of food upstairs, I said, guiding them toward the bridal suite. Light snacks, fruit, water. We want to keep your energy up. The bridal suite was elegant, cream and gold decor, natural light streaming through tall windows, comfortable seating, and mirrors everywhere for the transformation from regular woman to bride. Lauren's dress hung on a padded hanger, covered in protective fabric. Her shoes sat beneath it. Her jewelry box was on the vanity. Everything was perfect. Everything was a lie. The hair and makeup team arrived at 10:35. Sophia and her assistant Marco, professionals I'd worked with dozens of times. They took one look at Lauren and I saw Sophia's eyes widen slightly. "Okay, beautiful bride." Sophia's voice was aggressively cheerful. "Let's get you glowing for your big day. Marco, start with the hair. I'll do the facial prep." As they worked, I stayed in the room, ostensibly to coordinate timing and answer any questions, really to monitor what Lauren consumed and to intercept anything Derek might try to deliver. At 11:03, there was a knock on the door. A venue staff member stood there with an elaborate floral arrangement and a card. "Delivery for the bride from the groom," she said. "I'll take it." I accepted the flowers and closed the door before anyone could protest. I opened the card. "To my beautiful bride. Take the vitamins I left in your bag. They'll help you feel better. Can't wait to marry you. D." I crushed the card in my fist. Then I turned to Lauren, who was watching me in the mirror while Marco pinned her hair. "Flowers from Derek," I said, keeping my voice light. I placed them on the side table, but positioned them so the card wasn't visible. "He's thinking of you." Lauren's reflection looked resigned, not happy, not blushing with bride-like joy, just resigned. "That's nice," she said quietly. "Lauren, honey, there's water here if you need it," Diane said from her position on the sofa, scrolling through her phone. "You should stay hydrated. I'll get some." Lauren started to rise, but Sophia pushed her gently back into the chair. "Stay put, bride. Maya, can you hand her a water?" I grabbed one of my sealed bottles and opened it in front of everyone before handing it to Lauren. She drank deeply, and I watched her throat work with each swallow. Good. Clean water. Nothing Derek had touched. At 11:47, my phone buzzed. "Michelle, Derek just called. Asked if I delivered the vitamins to Lauren yet. Told him traffic was terrible. I'm running late. He's pissed." I stepped into the hallway to respond. "Good. Keep him off balance. Has he mentioned the protein shake?" "Yes. Said he left it with the car service this morning. I told him the driver said there was no shake. Derek is spiraling. He knows something's off." "How much time until he gets here?" "He's leaving his apartment now. We'll be here by 12:30 as planned. But Maya, he's agitated. This isn't good." "It's fine. We're almost there. Lauren's getting dressed soon. Ceremony starts at 2. We just need to keep her away from him for 2 more hours. 2 hours. Then what?" "Then she walks down that aisle. And we pray this works." I went back into the bridal suite. Lauren's hair was finished, an elegant updo that somehow made her face look even thinner. Sophia was working on her makeup, trying to contour life back into Lauren's gaunt cheeks, trying to hide the dark circles and the gray undertone. "You're a miracle worker," I told Sophia quietly. "I'm trying," she murmured back. "But Maya, this girl is sick, like really sick. Has anyone taken her to a doctor?" "She's seeing one today," I said. It wasn't a lie, just not in the way Sophia would assume. By 12:15, Lauren was fully made up. Sophia had indeed worked miracles. Lauren looked almost healthy, almost radiant. The magic of professional cosmetics, but when Lauren stood to put on her dress, she swayed. Marco caught her elbow. "Whoa! Steady there. When's the last time you ate?" "I'm fine," Lauren said automatically. "Just stood up too fast." "Honey, you need to eat something," Diane said, finally putting down their phone and showing actual concern. "Maya, is there food?" "Right here." I brought over the tray of fruit and crackers I'd prepared. "Lauren, please, even just a few bites." Lauren nibbled on a strawberry, managed 2 crackers. It was something, but not nearly enough. At 12:33, my phone rang. Derek. I stepped into the hallway to answer. "Hello, Derek." Maya. His voice was tight, controlled anger. "Where's Michelle? She was supposed to deliver Lauren's vitamins an hour ago." "I'm not sure. I haven't seen her yet." "But Derek, you know it's bad luck to see the bride before the ceremony. Are you already at the venue?" "I'm in the parking lot. I need to see Lauren for just a moment, to give her something. I really don't think I wasn't asking permission, Maya. I need to see my fiancé." My heart was pounding. If Derek got into that bridal suite, if he got Lauren alone for even 30 seconds, he could give her anything. A concentrated dose, something fast-acting. And then she'd collapse before the ceremony, before the witnesses, before the EMTs I had standing by, before everything we'd planned. Derek, I said firmly, I've been planning weddings for 18 years. Trust me when I tell you that seeing the bride right now will only create more stress for both of you. Lauren's in the middle of getting dressed. She's got her mother and the beauty team with her. This is not the time. You'll see her in 90 minutes when she walks down that aisle. Silence. I could practically hear him calculating. Fine, he said finally. But Maya, if anything goes wrong today, if anything isn't perfect, I'm holding you personally responsible. The threat was clear. Everything will be perfect, I lied. See you at 2 p.m. I hung up and leaned against the wall, breathing hard. My hands were shaking. Another text from Michelle. I saw that. He's in the parking lot. I'm keeping watch. If he tries to go upstairs, I'll intercept. Thank you. How's he seem? Angry, pacing on the phone. Maya, I've worked for him for 3 years. I've never seen him like this. He knows something's wrong. Doesn't matter. Guest seating starts at 1:30. Derek needs to be in position. He can't make a scene in front of arriving guests. We're in the home stretch. I hope you're right. Me too. Back in the bridal suite, Lauren was being zipped into her dress. The Helena gown, massive, beaded, heavy. It hung on her thin frame like it was wearing her, rather than the other way around. Diane gasped, "Oh, sweetheart, you're so beautiful." But her voice cracked on the word beautiful, and I saw tears in her eyes, not happy tears, worried tears. Because even Diane could see what we'd all been seeing for months. Her daughter was disappearing. Lauren looked at herself in the mirror. I watched her face, trying to read her expression. She didn't look happy. She looked trapped. "Can I have a moment alone?" Lauren asked suddenly. "Just me and Maya." Diane looked surprised but nodded. "Of course, honey. We'll wait in the hallway." "Come on, Sophia, Marco." They filed out, leaving me alone with the bride in the massive white dress. Lauren turned to me, and I saw tears streaming down her carefully made-up face. "I can't do this," she whispered. "Maya, I can't marry him." This was it, the moment. But I couldn't tell her the truth, that I knew about the arsenic, that I was planning for her to collapse, that help was coming. If she knew, she might refuse. She might try to run. And Derek was downstairs, watching, waiting. "Then don't," I said simply. "Lauren, I told you months ago, it's never too late. If you want to call this off, we call it off. Right now, I'll handle everything." "I can't," her voice broke. "The business merger, my father, Derek will what?" I moved closer, keeping my voice gentle. "What are you afraid he'll do?" She looked at me, and I saw it clearly now. The fear wasn't just of disappointing her father or ruining a business deal. She was afraid of Derek. "He'll destroy my father's company," she said. "He has leverage, contracts, knowledge of some irregularities in my father's business. If I embarrass him, if I back out now, he'll ruin everything. My father will lose everything. It'll be my fault." "Lauren, that's not..." "And I'm sick," she continued, the words pouring out now. "I've been sick for so long, and no doctor can tell me what's wrong, and Derek is the only person who's been taking care of me. He orders my supplements, he makes me food, he takes me to appointments. Without him, I don't know how I'd..." She stopped, looked at me, really looked at me. "Unless," she said slowly, "unless he's the reason I'm sick?" The words hung in the air. I made a decision. We were 90 minutes from the ceremony. Derek was downstairs. Michelle was keeping watch. The EMTs were on standby. The plan was in motion. Lauren deserved to know the truth. "Lauren," I said carefully, "do you trust me?" Yes, I think so." "Then I need you to trust me for 90 more minutes. Can you do that? In 90 minutes, you're going to walk down that aisle, and I need you to do it. I need you to start that ceremony. I need you to stand at that altar with Derek and begin those vows." Her eyes widened in horror. "But I just said..." "I know what you said, and I'm telling you to do it anyway. Walk down that aisle. Stand at that altar. And Lauren?" I moved even closer, dropped my voice to barely above a whisper. "No matter what happens, no matter how you feel, don't drink anything Derek gives you. Don't take any medication he offers. Don't consume anything unless it comes directly from me or the venue staff. Do you understand?" She was staring at me like I'd lost my mind. "Maya, what are you..." "Do you understand?" I repeated. Slowly, she nodded. "Good. Now let's fix your makeup. You have a wedding to get to. Guest seating began at 1:30 p.m. exactly. 200 people in their finest clothes began filling the white chairs arranged in the grand ballroom. The Ashford estate had been transformed. Flowers everywhere, ribbons and tulle, soft lighting, the string quartet playing Bach. It was elegant, sophisticated, expensive. It looked exactly like Derek had specified. I stood at the back of the ballroom with my tablet, checking off every detail. Sound system working, programs on chairs, aisle runner in place, officiant in position, photographer ready, videographer recording. Everything was perfect. Derek entered at 1:45 with his brother Marcus, the best man who'd flown in from London. Derek was wearing his custom tuxedo, looking every bit the successful groom. Handsome, polished, confident. He saw me and walked over. "Is she ready?" "She's beautiful," I said, which wasn't an answer, but he didn't seem to notice. "Good. Everything's on schedule?" "Everything's perfect," another lie. "And Lauren's feeling all right? She got her vitamins?" "She's ready for her big moment," I said, sidestepping the question. Derek studied my face. I kept my expression neutral, professional. After a moment, he nodded and walked to the front of the ballroom to take his position. Michelle appeared at my elbow. She was dressed in an elegant navy dress, looking every bit the professional assistant, but I could see the tension in her shoulders. "He's suspicious," she whispered. "Be careful." "It's fine. We're almost there. Is Lauren coming down now?" I turned to see Lauren emerging from the bridal suite, her mother on one side, Patricia on the other. The massive dress made her look even smaller, fragile, like a child playing dress-up in her mother's clothes. But she was upright. She was moving. She was going to make it to the ceremony. As she got closer, I saw her face, pale beneath the makeup, a slight sheen of sweat on her forehead, but her expression was determined. She met my eyes, and I saw the question there. "Are you sure about this?" I nodded once. "Trust me." The quartet finished their prelude piece, a moment of silence. Then they began the processional, Pachelbel's canon in D, the most traditional, most expected choice. Derek had insisted on it. The guests stood. Lauren and her father, Vincent Castellano, looking proud and oblivious, began the long walk down the aisle. I watched from my position at the back, watched Lauren take slow, measured steps, watched her grip her father's arm like it was the only thing keeping her upright, watched Derek's face at the front of the ballroom, smiling, confident, the picture of a groom in love. I thought about what was in Lauren's bloodstream right now, months of accumulated arsenic, traces of whatever else Derek had been giving her, her body struggling to function, to survive, to make it through one more day. I thought about what Derek had planned for after the wedding, the honeymoon in the Maldives, the isolated island, the pharmaceutical compound he'd ordered for after. I thought about the wedding that was supposed to be Lauren's future, and how it was actually meant to be her funeral. Lauren reached the altar. Vincent lifted her veil, kissed her cheek, and placed her hand in Derek's. Derek smiled down at her. To everyone watching, it looked like love. I saw it for what it was, possession. The officiant began. "Dearly beloved, we are gathered here today." I moved to my designated position, off to the side, close enough to step in if needed. My phone was in my pocket, silent but ready. The EMTs were in the building, waiting in a staff room I'd arranged for them, told they were on standby for any guest medical emergencies. They were about to have one. The officiant continued through the traditional ceremony. Derek had insisted on traditional, no personalized vows, no unique readings, no individual touches, just a standard ceremony that had been performed at millions of weddings for hundreds of years. "Derek Hastings, do you take Lauren Castellano to be your lawfully wedded wife?" Derek's response was clear, strong, perfect. "I do." "Lauren Castellano, do you take Derek Hastings to be your lawfully wedded husband?" Lauren swayed, just slightly, just enough that I noticed and Derek noticed, but probably no one else in the crowd of 200 people did. Derek's hand tightened on hers, holding her up, or holding her in place. Lauren's voice was weak, barely audible. "Speak up, honey," the officiant said gently, thinking she was just nervous. Lauren opened her mouth to continue, and that's when I saw her eyes roll back. She was going down. Everything happened in slow motion and yet terrifyingly fast. Lauren's knees buckled. Derek tried to catch her, But the massive dress made it impossible. All that fabric, all those layers, all that weight. She fell, hit the floor hard, the dress billowing around her like a deflated parachute. Gasps from the crowd. Someone screamed. Chairs scraped as people jumped up to see what was happening. I was already moving, phone to my ear, calling the EMTs who were waiting exactly 3 rooms away. Medical emergency, grand ballroom, bride collapsed, get here now. Derek was on the floor beside Lauren, cradling her head, his face a mask of perfect concern. Lauren, baby, wake up. Someone call 911. They're already on their way, I said, reaching them. Derek, move back, give her space. I'm not leaving her. Move back, I said more firmly. To the crowd, please stay calm, medical help is coming. If you're not immediate family, please stay seated. But no one was staying seated. People were crowding forward, trying to see, pulling out phones to call 911 or record video. The EMTs arrived in 45 seconds. Professional, efficient, pushing through the crowd with their equipment. What happened? The lead EMT, his name tag said Rodriguez, was already taking Lauren's pulse. She collapsed during the ceremony. I said, she's been feeling ill for weeks. Weight loss, fatigue, dizziness. This is the culmination. Rodriguez looked at me sharply. That was more medical detail than most wedding planners would provide. You her wedding planner or her doctor? Her wedding planner, who's been watching her deteriorate for 6 months and finally convinced someone to listen, I said, and I loaded my voice with enough emotion that he'd believe I was just an over-involved vendor. Derek was hovering. Is she breathing? Is she going to be okay? What do you need from me? Sir, step back, please. Rodriguez's partner, Martinez, was setting up an IV line. We need to work. They checked vitals, pupils, breathing, heart rate. All the while, 200 wedding guests watched, horrified. Blood pressure's low, heart rate elevated. She's responsive to pain, Rodriguez said. We need to transport now. They loaded Lauren onto a stretcher. She was semi-conscious now, eyes fluttering, making small sounds of distress. Derek moved to follow them. I'm coming with her. Are you family? Rodriguez asked. I'm her fiancé. We were literally in the middle of getting married. Only family in the ambulance. You can meet us at the hospital. I am her family. I'm about to be her husband. Not legally, not yet, I interjected. Derek, you need to stay here and talk to the guests. I'll go with Lauren. I know her medical history. I can answer the doctor's questions. Derek's head snapped toward me. You're her wedding planner, who's been coordinating with her for 6 months and has documentation of her symptoms. Derek, someone needs to tell all these people what's happening. Someone needs to manage the situation. That's you. I'll call you from the hospital the moment I have information. I could see him calculating. He didn't want to let Lauren go without him, but he also couldn't abandon 200 guests in a ballroom without explanation. And he knew, I could see it in his eyes, that making a scene about forcing his way into the ambulance would look wrong. The concerned groom should stay and manage the crisis. That's what everyone would expect. Fine, he said finally. But Maya, you call me the second you know anything at all. I promise, I lied. They were already wheeling Lauren out. I followed, grabbing my bag with all my documentation. Every note I'd taken, every observation I'd recorded, every invoice Michelle had copied. Evidence. As we moved through the hallway toward the exit, I felt my phone buzz. Text from Michelle. He's watching you leave. Be careful. And Maya, thank you. I didn't respond, just climbed into the ambulance as they loaded Lauren. Rodriguez looked at me as we pulled away, sirens wailing. You want to tell me what's really going on here? That bride has been systematically poisoned for months, I said, probably arsenic. And the man she was about to marry is the one who's been doing it. Rodriguez's eyes widened. Are you serious? Completely. You need to run a comprehensive tox screen. Test for arsenic, heavy metals, anything that could cause chronic poisoning. And you need to do it before he gets to the hospital and tries to influence her care. That's a serious accusation. I have documentation, I said, pulling out my tablet. 6 months of observations, copies of invoices for chemicals he purchased, a timeline of her decline, and a witness, his assistant, who's been tracking what he's been giving her. Martinez was monitoring Lauren's vitals. Her numbers are stabilizing. She's coming around. Lauren's eyes opened, unfocused, confused. What happened? You collapsed at your wedding, I said gently. You're in an ambulance. You're safe. Lauren, we're taking you to the hospital and they're going to test your blood. They're going to find out what's been making you sick. Do you understand? She stared at me. Then slowly she nodded. He was poisoning me, she whispered. Derek was poisoning me. I figured it out this morning. The way he always wanted me to take those specific vitamins. The way I only felt worse after taking them. I started to realize, oh God, I almost married him. You didn't, I said firmly. You didn't marry him. The ceremony didn't finish. You're not his wife. You're free. Tears streamed down her face, ruining Sophia's carefully applied makeup. But my father's business. Derek will destroy it. He'll let him try, I said. Lauren, when the hospital finds arsenic in your blood, when they have medical evidence that you've been poisoned, Derek is going to be arrested. Whatever leverage he thinks he has, it won't matter when he's facing attempted murder charges. Rodriguez was on his radio, speaking quickly to the hospital. En route with 28-year-old female, collapsed during wedding ceremony, suspected poisoning case, requesting talk screen and police presence at hospital. We pulled up to the emergency entrance of St. Catherine's Hospital 4 minutes later. Everything happened fast after that. Lauren was rushed into the ER. Nurses swarmed. Doctors asked questions. I handed over my documentation. All of it, every note, every observation, every concern I'd had over 6 months. The ER doctor, Dr. Patel, her name tag said, looked through my notes with increasing alarm. You documented all of this? I'm a wedding planner. I document everything. In this case, I'm really glad I did. We'll run the talk screen immediately, but I need to ask, does the groom know you suspected poisoning? Not specifically, but he knew something was off today. He's suspicious. He'll be here soon. Then we need police here before he arrives. Dr. Patel turned to a nurse. Call hospital security and get Detective Chen from the precinct. Tell her we have a suspected poisoning case, possible attempted homicide, and the suspect may be en route. 15 minutes later, a police detective arrived. Detective Sarah Chen, mid-40s, sharp eyes, no nonsense, demeanor. I told her everything. The 6 months of planning, the observations, Michelle's invoices, the plan to force a medical emergency in public so Lauren would be tested. You orchestrated a medical crisis, Chen said, her voice flat. I orchestrated a public collapse that would force comprehensive medical testing that would reveal evidence of poisoning and save her life, I corrected. Because if that wedding had been completed, if they'd gone on their honeymoon, I don't think Lauren would have come back alive. Chen studied me. You're either a very clever woman or completely insane. Can't I be both? Despite everything, she smiled slightly. Give me all your documentation, and I need contact information for this assistant, Michelle Yang. She'll need to give a statement. I texted Michelle. At hospital, police here. They need your statement and the invoice copies. Are you safe? Response came quickly. Derek left venue 10 minutes ago. Assume he's heading to you. I'm safe. I left before he could corner me. Sending detective the files now. Detective Chen, I said. Derek Hastings left the venue approximately 10 minutes ago. He's likely on his way here. Good, Chen said grimly. We'll be ready for him. Lauren's talk screen came back 43 minutes after she arrived at the hospital. Dr. Patel found me in the waiting room where Detective Chen had asked me to stay. Her face was grim. Arsenic? I asked, already knowing the answer. Arsenic, she confirmed. Levels consistent with chronic poisoning over several months. She also has elevated levels of thallium and traces of several other heavy metals. Whoever did this to her was systematic and knowledgeable. Will she be okay? We've started chelation therapy to remove the metals from her system. It's going to be a long recovery, months, possibly years of treatment, but yes, she should survive. If you hadn't, Dr. Patel paused. If this wedding had gone forward, if she'd gone on a honeymoon, if the poisoning had continued, she'd be dead within weeks, maybe days. The words hit me like a physical blow. We'd been right. Everything we'd suspected, everything we'd risked to prove it, we'd been right. Her father is here, Dr. Patel added. He's asking to see her. And then we've had several calls from the groom demanding information. Don't tell Derek anything except that she's stable, I said immediately, and don't let him near her. Detective Chen already gave those orders. But Ms. Sinclair, what you did today, orchestrating a medical emergency, essentially forcing this situation, that's going to raise questions. You could face legal consequences. I saved her life. Yes, and you might need a good lawyer to explain how you did it. Before I could respond, there was a commotion at the ER entrance. Derek's voice, loud and demanding. I need to see Lauren Castellano. I'm her fiancé. Where is she? Detective Chen appeared from down the hallway and intercepted him. I watched from the waiting room as she showed her badge. Mr. Hastings, I'm Detective Chen. I need to ask you some questions about Lauren Castellano. Questions? She collapsed at our wedding. I need to see her. Is she all right? She's stable. But Mr. Hastings, we've received some concerning information about Miss Castellano's medical condition. When was the last time you saw her consume food or beverages? Derek's face flickered. Just for a second, his mask slipped and I saw a calculation behind his eyes. This morning, I made her a protein shake. Why? What does that have to do with anything? What was in the shake? Protein powder, almond milk, berries. She's been trying to stay healthy for the wedding. Detective, what's going on? Mr. Hastings, Miss Castellano's blood work showed evidence of arsenic poisoning, chronic poisoning over several months. I watched Derek's face, watched him process, watched him decide how to play it. Arsenic, oh my God, how is that possible? Where would she have been exposed to arsenic? Perfect concern, perfect confusion. That's what we're trying to determine. You mentioned you prepared food for her regularly. I was trying to help. She's been sick for months. Her doctor said it was anxiety and stress, but I wanted to make sure she was eating, staying hydrated. I've been taking care of her. What doctor has she been seeing? Dr. Morrison, our family physician. And did you accompany her to these appointments? Of course. She's been too weak to drive herself. Detective Chen made notes. Mr. Hastings, we're going to need to inspect your apartment. We'll also need a list of any supplements, medications, or food items you've been giving Miss Castellano. Am I under suspicion for something? Derek's voice was taking on an edge now. Because I've been the one taking care of her while everyone else dismissed her symptoms of wedding stress. We're just gathering information. I'm sure you want to help us figure out how Miss Castellano was poisoned. Of course I do. This is insane. Lauren and I are supposed to be on our honeymoon next week. Instead, she's in the hospital being poisoned by God knows what. He ran a hand through his hair, the picture of a distressed fiancé. Can I see her, please? She's not able to have visitors right now. She needs rest and medical treatment. I'm her fiancé. I have a right. Actually, a new voice interrupted. Vincent Castellano approached, and he looked like he'd aged 10 years in the last hour. You're not her fiancé. The ceremony didn't complete. You're not her husband. You're not her family. And until we understand what happened to my daughter, you're not getting anywhere near her. Derek turned to Vincent. Vincent, you can't possibly think I had anything to do with... I don't know what to think, Vincent said, and his voice was shaking. My daughter's been poisoned. For months, while she was under your care, while you were taking care of her, while you were preparing her food and giving her supplements and controlling every aspect of her life. I was helping her. Were you? Vincent stepped closer. Or were you killing her slowly, while making everyone think she was just stressed? While making me think my daughter was being dramatic, high-strung, anxious? You told me she needed those vitamins. You told me she was sleeping poorly and needed medication. You convinced me to dismiss her when she said she felt sick. Vincent, I understand you're upset, but did you poison my daughter to secure the merger? Vincent's voice was rising now. Is that what this was about? Marry her, wait long enough for it to look natural, then let her die and inherit everything? Is that the plan? That's insane. Is it? Vincent pulled something from his pocket, a folded document. Because this is a life insurance policy in Lauren's name, $5 million, with you as the sole beneficiary. It was filed last month. Lauren's signature is on it, but she never mentioned it to me. Did she even know she signed it, Derek? Or did you slip it in with other wedding documents? Derek's face went very still. That's standard estate planning for married couples. You weren't married yet, and the policy was dated to begin the day after your scheduled honeymoon ended. That's convenient timing. Detective Chen held out her hand. Mr. Castellano, I'm going to need that document. Vincent handed it over. There's more. I started looking into things after Maya called me in April expressing concerns about Lauren's health. I dismissed her at the time. He glanced at me with what looked like regret. But something she said stuck with me. So I hired a private investigator to look into Derek's finances. You did what? Derek's composure was cracking now. The merger wasn't going to benefit you as much as you claimed. Vincent continued. In fact, your firm has significant hidden debts, bad investments, loans from questionable sources. You needed Lauren's trust fund. You needed the appearance of stability that marrying into my family would provide. And you needed it fast. This is slander. It's fact. Documented fact. My investigator found everything. The debts, the bad deals, the pressure from your firm's partners to show stability or be pushed out. You were about to lose everything, weren't you, Derek? And marrying Lauren was your solution. Except why stop at marriage when you could have it all? Marry her, let her die, inherit her trust fund, get the life insurance payout, and play the grieving widower. No messy divorce, no splitting assets, just a tragic loss and a very wealthy young widower. People in the ER waiting room were staring now. This was meant to be a private conversation, but Vincent's voice had risen with each accusation. Detective Chen stepped in. Mr. Castellano, I need you to lower your voice. Mr. Hastings, I'm going to need you to come to the precinct to answer some questions. Am I being arrested? Not yet, but we need your statement and we need to inspect your apartment. You can cooperate voluntarily or I can get a warrant. Derek looked around, at Vincent's accusing face, at the detective's stern expression, at me watching from the waiting room, at the growing crowd of nurses and staff and patients, pretending not to listen. I saw the moment he decided to run. His body language shifted. He took one step back, then another. Mr. Hastings, don't, Detective Chen warned. But Derek was already turning, already moving toward the exit. He made it exactly 4 steps before 2 uniformed officers who'd been standing near the entrance intercepted him. Sir, stop right there. Derek tried to push past them. One officer grabbed his arm. Derek swung at him. That was the mistake that turned this from questioning into arrest. Derek Hastings. You're under arrest for assaulting an officer, Detective Chen said, moving forward quickly. You have the right to remain silent. I didn't do anything. Derek was struggling now as the officers cuffed him. This is insane. Lauren is sick. Someone poisoned her, but it wasn't me. Check her apartment, check her work, check anywhere but me. I love her. I was going to marry her. You were going to kill her, I said quietly, but in the sudden silence of the ER, everyone heard me. Derek's eyes found me. And there it was. The mask finally fully dropped. The rage underneath, the calculation, the cold intelligence that had been orchestrating murder for 6 months. You, he said. You did this. You interfered. You convinced them. I saved her life, I corrected. That's all I did. Everything else, the evidence, the arrest, the truth. That's all you, Derek. You poisoned her. You controlled her. You isolated her. You tried to murder her. I just made sure everyone found out before you succeeded. I want a lawyer, Derek said suddenly, his voice ice cold. I'm not saying another word without a lawyer present. Smart, Detective Chen said. Officers, take him to the precinct, book him. Assault on an officer, and we'll add more charges once we process the evidence. They dragged Derek out. He didn't struggle anymore. Just stared straight ahead, face blank, already calculating his defense. When the doors closed behind him, Vincent turned to me. You tried to tell me, he said, in April. You called me and told me Lauren was sick and I dismissed you. I told you to focus on your job. You didn't know. I should have known. She's my daughter. I should have seen what was happening. Instead, I was so focused on the business, on the merger, on what this marriage could do for the company. He stopped, his voice breaking. I basically sold her. I told her Derek was a good match. I encouraged the relationship. I pushed for the engagement. My God, I helped him nearly kill her. You didn't know what he was doing. But I knew she was unhappy. I knew she looked sick. I knew she was losing weight and losing herself. And I told myself it was just wedding stress. Because it was convenient to believe that. Because believing anything else would mean acknowledging that I'd put business before my daughter's well-being. He looked at me with tears in his eyes. How do I come back from that? You start by being there for her now, I said. She's going to need you. The recovery from this, physical and emotional, is going to take a long time. She's going to need her father. Vincent nodded, wiping his eyes. Can I see her? Check with Dr. Patel. But Vincent, when you see her, don't tell her about the business. Don't mention the merger. Just be her father, not a CEO, just her dad. He squeezed my shoulder. Thank you, Maya, for not giving up on her when everyone else did. Then he went to find the doctor. Detective Chen approached me. Miss Sinclair, I need you to come to the precinct tomorrow and give a formal statement. Bring all your documentation. Am I in trouble? Honestly, I don't know yet. What you did, orchestrating a medical emergency, that's ethically questionable at best, but you also saved that woman's life. The DA will have to decide if the ends justify the means. I'd do it again, I said. If I had to choose between following the rules and letting someone die, I'd break the rules every time. I believe you would. Chen handed me her card. Be at the precinct tomorrow at 10 a.m. And Miss Sinclair, off the record, good job. I left the hospital at 7:47 p.m. The sun was setting, painting the sky in shades of orange and pink. Somewhere across town, the Ashford estate was probably still being cleaned up, centerpieces being disassembled, chairs being folded, flowers being thrown away. The wedding that never happened. My phone had been buzzing all day, texts and calls from vendors, from guests, from Patricia at the venue. Everyone wanted to know what happened, if Lauren was okay, what they should do now. I'd answer them all tomorrow. Tonight, I was exhausted. Ethan met me in the hospital parking lot. I'd called him after Derek was arrested, told him the basics. Now he pulled me into a hug, and I let myself collapse against him. You did it, he said into my hair. You actually did it. We did it, I corrected. Me and Michelle in luck and timing. Mostly you. He pulled back to look at me. You risked everything, your business, your reputation, possibly your freedom, to save someone you barely knew. I've planned over 600 weddings, I said. I've seen the best of people and the worst of people. I've seen love and I've seen manipulation. I've seen partnerships and I've seen ownership. I knew what I was seeing with Derek and Lauren. I couldn't just ignore it. I know. That's why I love you. He kissed my forehead. Come on, let's go home. On the drive home, my phone rang. Michelle. Are you okay? I answered. I'm fine. Police just left my apartment. They took my copies of all the invoices, got my statement. Detective Chen said I did the right thing. Maya, did it work? Is Lauren... She's going to be okay. Arsenic poisoning confirmed. Derek's been arrested. It worked, Michelle. We saved her. I heard Michelle crying on the other end. Relief, exhaustion, emotion. Thank you, she said finally, for believing me, for taking the risk, for actually doing something instead of just looking the other way like everyone else did. Thank you for coming to me, for keeping those records, for being brave enough to speak up. We talked for a few more minutes, making plans to meet with Detective Chen together the next day. When I hung up, Ethan glanced at me. That's the assistant? 26 years old, and she just took down her boss to save a woman's life. She's going to be unemployed now. Derek's firm will probably blacklist her. Or she'll be the whistleblower who exposed a murderer. That takes courage. That shows integrity. She'll land on her feet. I hoped he was right. At home, I sat in my office, the same office where I'd met Lauren and Derek for the first time 6 months ago. The same office where I'd seen the red flags and ignored them, where I'd documented everything but hadn't known what to do with the information. I pulled up my files on the wedding, all the emails, the contracts, the timelines, the budgets. Hundreds of hours of work planning a wedding that would never happen. I selected all of it and moved it to a folder labeled Castellano Hastings. Cancelled. Then I opened a new document and started typing. Incident report, June 15th wedding, medical emergency. I documented everything. Every observation, every decision, every step that led to Lauren's collapse and Derek's arrest. Clinical, factual, thorough. I'd need it for the police, possibly for lawyers, possibly to defend my actions if questions were raised about my methods. But I was also documenting it because that's what I do. I'm a wedding planner. I document celebrations and crises and everything in between. This just happened to be the wedding that saved a life instead of celebrating one. The arrest of Derek Hastings made regional news that night and national news by morning. Investment banker arrested for attempted murder of fiancé. Poison found in bride's system after wedding day collapse. The story had everything: wealth, romance, betrayal, poison, a dramatic wedding day arrest. Media couldn't get enough, and suddenly I was part of the story. Wedding planner's suspicions lead to groom's arrest. How a vendor saved a bride's life. The wedding that exposed a murder plot. In part 4, I'll tell you about what happened in the days and weeks after the arrest, about Lauren's recovery and the conversations we had when she was strong enough to talk, about the investigation that revealed just how methodical Derek had been and how close Lauren came to dying, about Michelle's testimony and Vincent's guilt and the trial that captivated the country, about the moment I visited Lauren in the hospital and she asked me the question I'd been asking myself since this began. How did you know? What made you keep looking when everyone else stopped? And I'll tell you what I told her. Because after 18 years and over 600 weddings, I've learned that the most important skill a wedding planner can have isn't organization or creativity or vendor relationships. It's the ability to see what's really happening beneath the performance, to distinguish between love and control, between partnership and ownership, between a wedding that celebrates the beginning of something beautiful and a wedding that masks the end of something deadly. I learned to trust my instincts, even when everyone else said I was wrong. Even when it cost me sleep and peace of mind and possibly my career, because some brides need flowers and timelines and perfect centerpieces, and some brides need someone to notice they're disappearing and refuse to look away. Lauren needed both. And for once, in one wedding, I managed to provide everything she needed, even if what she needed most was for the wedding to never happen at all. The morning after Derek's arrest, I woke up to 73 text messages, 42 missed calls, and my face on the news. I sat in bed, scrolling through my phone in disbelief, watching myself become part of a national story. Local wedding planner exposes groom's murder, plot. Maya Sinclair, the vendor who saved a bride. How one woman's suspicions stopped a wedding day murder. They'd found photos of me from my website, video footage from the ambulance arriving at the Ashford estate, interviews with wedding guests who'd witnessed Lauren's collapse. The story was everywhere: CNN, NBC, local news, national news, social media. My phone rang, a number I didn't recognize. Against my better judgment, I answered. Hello, Ms. Sinclair, this is Trevor Hammond from NBC News. We'd love to have you on for an interview about the Castellano poisoning case. I hung up. It rang again immediately. Different number. Miss Sinclair, Catherine Price from Good Morning America. I hung up again. By the third call, I stopped answering entirely and texted Ethan, I need a lawyer and maybe a publicist. This is out of control. His response, already on it. Called my cousin Diane. She's a media lawyer. She'll be here in an hour. Don't talk to anyone until she arrives. I got out of bed and went downstairs to find my email inbox was equally overwhelmed. Interview requests, podcasters wanting to cover the story, reporters asking for comment, and buried somewhere in all of it, actual clients wondering if their weddings were still happening. Oh God, my business. I'd been so focused on saving Lauren that I hadn't thought about what this would do to my reputation. Would couples still want to hire me after this? Would I be seen as the heroic wedding planner who saved a life? Or the paranoid vendor who orchestrated a medical emergency? The answer I discovered over the following days was both. Some potential clients canceled consultations, uncomfortable with the association. Others specifically sought me out, saying they wanted a planner who actually cared about their well-being beyond the aesthetics. But that first morning, all I knew was that my quiet, behind-the-scenes career as a wedding planner had suddenly become very, very public. Ethan's cousin Diane arrived at 9:15 a.m. She was in her 50s, sharply dressed, and radiated a competent authority. First rule, she said, pulling out a legal pad before she'd even sat down. No media interviews without my approval. No social media posts about the case. No comments to reporters. Refer everyone to me. I wasn't planning to. Good. Second rule, everything you say to police, you run by me first. You're not in trouble yet, but orchestrating a medical emergency without the subject's informed consent is legally murky. I saved her life. I know, and that will matter, but we need to be careful about how this is presented. The DA is going to have to decide whether to pursue charges against you for reckless endangerment or to treat you as a witness who helped expose a crime. My stomach dropped. They could charge me. It's possible. Unlikely, but possible. You forced a medical crisis in someone without their consent, even if your intentions were good. Legally, that's complicated. So what do? You tell the truth, you document everything, and you let me handle the legal navigation. Diane's expression softened. Maya, off the record, what you did took incredible courage. You saw something everyone else missed, and you risked everything to stop it. That matters. But we need to make sure the law recognizes it as heroism, not recklessness. At 10:00 a.m., I was at the police precinct as requested, with Diane beside me. Detective Chen met us in an interview room. She looked like she hadn't slept. Files and folders stacked in front of her, coffee cup perpetually in hand. Miss Sinclair, thank you for coming in. She nodded to Diane. Counselor. Detective. Before we begin, I want to clarify my client's status. Is she a witness or a suspect? Witness, Chen said firmly. Though we may need to discuss some of her methods, she's not facing charges. She helped expose a crime, and we're grateful for that. I felt a weight lift off my chest. Good, Diane said. Then let's proceed. For the next 3 hours, I walked Detective Chen through everything. Every meeting with Lauren and Derek, every red flag I'd noticed, every conversation with Michelle, the decision to orchestrate the wedding day collapse, the reasoning behind every choice. Chen took notes, occasionally stopping me to ask for clarification or additional details. You said Derek always prepared Lauren's food and supplements, Chen said at one point. Did you ever actually see what was in them? No, he was very protective of that. He'd bring her smoothies in sealed containers. The vitamins were always in bottles he'd ordered online. She never purchased them herself. And the assistant, Michelle Yang, she kept copies of the invoices for everything he ordered? Yes. She said something felt wrong, so she documented it. I did the same from my perspective. We were both collecting evidence without fully understanding what we were seeing. Sometimes that's how cases break, Chen said. Two people noticing different pieces of the same puzzle. Your observations of Lauren's decline, plus Michelle's documentation of Derek's purchases, plus the medical evidence. It's building a strong case. How strong? Diane asked. What exactly did you find? Chen pulled out a file. Derek Hastings' apartment was searched yesterday. We found arsenic trioxide in his home office, hidden in a locked drawer inside a container labeled as nutritional supplement. We found empty bottles of thallium-based rat poison in his trash. We found a journal, digital, on his laptop, documenting the dosages he was giving Lauren and her symptoms in response. My blood ran cold. He kept records? Detailed records, dates, amounts, Lauren's reactions. He was tracking it like a science experiment. Chen's voice was hard with disgust. He even noted which symptoms he needed to explain away to her doctor. When Lauren developed headaches, he researched what excuse would be most believable. When she started losing hair, he convinced her it was stress-related and took her to a dermatologist who prescribed supplements, which Derek then supplemented with his own additions. He was that organized about killing her. I felt sick. He's an investment banker. He approaches everything systematically, including murder. Chen pulled out another document. We also found the life insurance policy Mr. Castellano mentioned, $5 million. And here's the interesting part. The policy was written in a way that would pay out double if Lauren died during travel, which means if she died on their honeymoon, $10 million Diane finished, plus Lauren's trust fund, another $8 million, plus the business merger that would have netted him significant equity in Castellano development. All told, Derek stood to gain approximately $25 million from Lauren's death, and he would have gotten away with it if she died 6 months from now on a remote island where her body wouldn't have been comprehensively tested. But why poison her over months? I asked. Why not just, I don't know, stage an accident? Because slow poisoning that mimics illness is less suspicious, Chen explained. If Lauren had died suddenly, people ask questions. But if she'd been visibly sick for 6 months, so doctors had documented symptoms and then died, that's tragic but explainable. Young woman with mysterious illness that doctors couldn't diagnose. No one suspects murder when the victim has been wasting away in front of everyone. He was hiding the murder in plain sight, Diane said. Exactly, and it almost worked. If you hadn't started documenting, Chen looked at me. If Michelle hadn't kept those invoices, if you two hadn't connected and come up with your admittedly insane plan, Lauren would be dead within a few weeks. Maybe days. Derek was increasing the dosages. The journal entries from the week before the wedding show he was getting impatient. I thought about that, about how close we'd come, If I hadn't called Michelle, if Michelle hadn't called me, if we'd waited even one more week? What happens now, I asked. Now we build the case. Derek's been charged with attempted murder, assault on an officer, and we're adding more charges as we analyze the evidence. Conspiracy, fraud relating to the insurance policy, possibly RICO charges if we can prove he was using business connections to facilitate the crime. His lawyer is already trying to negotiate, but we have him on video attacking a police officer. We have his journal. We have the physical evidence of poison in his apartment, and we have Lauren's medical records showing chronic arsenic poisoning. This is as close to an airtight case as we get. When's the trial? Probably not for another year. These things take time, but he's being held without bail. Judge ruled he's a flight risk and a danger to Lauren. Chen closed the file. Ms. Sinclair, I need to ask, knowing what you know now, would you do it the same way? I thought about that, about the risk, about the ethics of forcing someone into medical crisis, even to save their life. Yes, I said finally, because the alternative was letting her die. Given that choice, I'd break the rules every time. Chen smiled slightly. Good answer. One more thing. Lauren is asking to see you. Are you comfortable with that? My heart jumped. She wants to see me. She's been asking for you since yesterday. The doctor said she's strong enough for short visits now. I thought you might want to know. I went to the hospital that afternoon. Lauren was in a private room on the 4th floor, away from the chaos of the ER. Hospital security had been increased. There were concerns that Derek's family or business associates might try to contact her, so only approved visitors were allowed. I checked in at the nurse's station, showed my ID, and was escorted to her room by a uniformed officer. 50 minutes, the officer said, doctor's orders. She's still very weak. I nodded and knocked softly on the door. Come in. Lauren's voice was thin but clear. I entered and stopped, trying not to let my face show my shock. Lauren was sitting up in bed, surrounded by medical equipment. IV lines ran into both arms. Heart monitor beeping steadily. She looked impossibly small in the hospital bed, and that without the makeup Sophia had applied, I could see the full extent of the damage Derek had done. Her skin had a grayish pallor. Her hair was dull and lifeless against the pillow. Her cheekbones were sharp enough to cast shadows. But her eyes were clear and focused in a way I'd never seen them when she was with Derek. Maya, she smiled weakly. You came. Of course I came. I moved to the chair beside her bed. How are you feeling? Like I've been poisoned for 6 months, she said, and there was actual humor in her voice. Dark humor, but humor nonetheless. The doctors said it'll take months of treatment to fully recover, but they also said if the wedding had happened, she stopped, eyes filling with tears, I'd be dead. You're not dead. You're here. You're safe. Because of you. The tears spilled over. Maya, you saved my life. The detective told me everything, how you documented my symptoms, how you coordinated with Michelle, how you planned the wedding day collapse to force medical testing. You orchestrated all of that to save me. You asked for help, I said quietly. The note you left on my desk, help me, please. I couldn't ignore that. I didn't know if you'd see it or if you'd understand what I meant. I couldn't say anything out loud. Derek was always there, always listening, always controlling everything. But that moment when you were looking at your notes and he was checking his phone, I pulled out his business card and wrote those words, and I prayed you'd understand. I understood, and Michelle called me right before that, so I knew something was very wrong. We just needed proof, and we needed to get you to safety without Derek knowing what we were doing. Lauren was quiet for a moment, processing. Then, the detective said Derek kept a journal, that he documented everything he was doing to me. Is that true? I hesitated. Yes. Will I be able to see it at the trial? Probably. Lauren, are you sure you want to? I want to know, she interrupted, her voice firm despite its weakness. I want to know exactly what he did to me. Every lie, every dose, every moment he looked me in the eye and told me he loved me while he was killing me. I need to know. I need to understand how I didn't see it. You couldn't have seen it, I said gently. He was too careful, too systematic. He convinced your doctor it was anxiety. He convinced your father you were high-strung. He convinced everyone around you that your symptoms were in your head, while he was literally poisoning you. That's not your failure. That's his manipulation. I should have trusted myself, Lauren said, more tears coming now. I knew something was wrong. I knew I felt sick. I knew it was controlling. But everyone kept telling me I was being dramatic, that wedding planning was stressful, that Derek was just being helpful. And I believed them instead of believing myself. Hey, I reached out and took her hand, carefully mindful of the IV. You survived. You left me that note. You asked for help. When it mattered most, you trusted yourself enough to reach out. That took incredible courage. I was so scared, she whispered. Toward the end, I was scared all the time. Scared of Derek, scared of disappointing my father, scared of being sick, scared of dying. I felt like I was drowning and everyone was telling me I was fine. You weren't fine. And now everyone knows it. Derek is in jail. You're getting treatment. Your father knows the truth. You're free, Lauren. You're actually free. She looked at me with those clear, focused eyes. What happens now? I don't have a job. My position at my father's company was made up. I don't have an apartment. Derek owned it. I don't have any money of my own. Everything was in trust funds my father controlled. I've spent my entire life being prepared to be someone's wife, and now I'm not getting married. And I don't know who I am if I'm not that. Now you figure it out, I said. You recover. You heal physically and emotionally. You go to therapy. You take your time, and you build a life that's actually yours, not something someone else designed for you. That sounds terrifying. It is terrifying. It's also freedom. Lauren was quiet for a long moment, staring at our joined hands. Then, my friend Jess came to visit yesterday. She's the one who kept texting me, telling me I deserved to be happy. She knew I wasn't happy with Derek, but I kept lying to her, kept saying everything was fine. When she found out what happened, she cried for an hour. I remembered those texts I'd glimpsed on Lauren's phone months ago. She sounds like a good friend. She is. She offered to let me stay with her when I get out of the hospital. Said I can take as long as I need to figure things out. It's nice to know I have somewhere to go that isn't my father's house or an apartment Derek controls. That's good. You'll need people around you who actually care about you. My father came to see me too. Lauren's voice went flat. He apologized, said he should have listened when I told him I felt sick. Said he should have questioned Derek more, said he'd put business before his daughter and he'll regret it for the rest of his life. Do you believe him? I don't know. Part of me wants to forgive him. Part of me is so angry I can barely look at him. He basically sold me. He saw me wasting away and told me I was being dramatic. He prioritized a business merger over my life. She looked at me. How do I forgive that? I don't know if you do, I said honestly, or if you should. That's something you'll need to work out with time and probably a therapist. But Lauren, your father did hire an investigator when things started bothering him. He did start questioning. He brought that insurance policy to the hospital. He's not blameless, but he also helped expose what Derek was doing. I know, that's the complicated part. He's not a villain. He's just a man who made terrible choices and didn't realize the cost until it was almost too late. We sat in silence for a moment. The hospital sounds filtered in. Beeping machines, distant voices, footsteps in the hallway. Maya, Lauren said finally, thank you for seeing me when everyone else was looking away, for caring enough to risk your career and your reputation to save me, for being the person who noticed I was disappearing and refused to let me vanish completely. You're welcome, I said, feeling my own tears now. For what it's worth, I've been planning weddings for 18 years. I've seen hundreds of couples, thousands of family dynamics, every variation of love and dysfunction. But I've never seen someone fight as hard as you did to survive. You stayed alive long enough for help to arrive. That's not nothing. That's everything. The officer knocked on the door. Time's up, Miss Sinclair. One more minute, Lauren said. The officer hesitated, then nodded and stepped back. Lauren squeezed my hand. Will you come back to visit? If you want me to. I want you to. She paused, searching for words. You're proof that people can surprise you, that sometimes someone will care even when they're not obligated to, that there are still good people in the world. I need to remember that right now. I'll come back, I promised, as often as they'll let me. Good. She released my hand and settled back against the pillows, exhausted from even that short conversation. Maya, Will you tell me how you knew? How you figured out what was happening when everyone else missed it? I thought about how to answer that, about the years of experience, the pattern recognition, the instincts honed over hundreds of weddings. I'll tell you next time I visit, I said. That's a longer conversation, and you need to rest. Promise? Promise. A week after Lauren's collapse, Michelle Yang agreed to meet me for coffee. Not at a Starbucks this time. We'd had enough of those clandestine meetings. Instead, she suggested a small cafe near her new apartment. She'd moved out of her old place, not comfortable staying somewhere Derek knew the address. She looked different than the last time I'd seen her. Less polished, less corporate. Jeans and a sweater instead of business attire. Hair down instead of pulled back. She looked younger and also somehow older. Maya, she stood to hug me when I arrived. Thank you for coming. Of course, how are you holding up? We sat, ordered coffee, and for a few minutes just existed in comfortable silence. I'm unemployed, Michelle said finally. Morrison and Stokes terminated me 3 days after Derek's arrest, said I violated confidentiality and breached my employment agreement by providing his business records to the police. That's bullshit. You exposed a crime. Tell that to their legal team. They're furious that one of their junior partners is facing attempted murder charges. It's bad for business. They want to distance themselves from Derek, which means distancing themselves from everyone associated with the case, including me. They can't do that. You were a whistleblower. They can do whatever they want. It's a powerful firm with expensive lawyers. I'm a 26-year-old former assistant with no resources to fight them. Michelle took a sip of her coffee. It's fine. I don't want to work for people like that anyway. People who care more about reputation than right and wrong. What will you do? I don't know yet. My lawyer, the one Detective Chen connected me with, says I might have a wrongful termination case. But those take years, and in the meantime, I need to work. No one in finance will hire me. Word travels fast, and woman who turned on her boss isn't exactly a selling point in that industry. Even when the boss was a murderer? Even then, loyalty is valued above almost everything in that world. Even loyalty to terrible people. She smiled without humor. It's fine. I'm realizing I don't want to be in finance anyway. I got into it for the money and the prestige, but I was miserable. I was working 80-hour weeks for a man I didn't respect, doing tasks that didn't matter, climbing a ladder I'm not sure I even wanted to be on. So what do you want? Michelle looked at me, and I saw something shift in her expression. Determination, purpose, something that hadn't been there before. I want to help people, she said. I want to do something that matters. I'm thinking about going back to school, maybe social work, maybe loss, maybe something in victim advocacy. I've been researching organizations that help women in abusive relationships, and I'm realizing how many systems failed Lauren. Her doctor didn't catch it. Her father didn't believe her. The people around her didn't see the signs. There has to be a way to do better. That sounds perfect for you, I said, and I meant it. It'll take time and money I don't have right now since I'm unemployed. But it's a goal. It's something to work toward. She paused. What about you? How's your business? Complicated, I admitted. I've had some clients cancel because they are uncomfortable with the association to the case. But I've had others specifically seek me out because they want a wedding planner who actually cares about their well-being. Overall, I think I'll be okay. Different, but okay. Different how? I'm being more selective about who I work with. If I see red flags now, if a groom is controlling, if a bride looks scared, if family dynamics seem toxic, I'm not taking the booking. I spent 18 years telling myself it wasn't my place to judge my clients' relationships, but this case taught me that sometimes noticing dysfunction and choosing to ignore it makes you complicit. That's a good lesson, Michelle said. Expensive, but good. We talked for another hour about the case, about the media attention she was getting it to, about what would happen at the trial, about how to move forward after being part of something this big. As we were getting ready to leave, Michelle said, Maya, can I ask you something? Of course. When I first called you, that day I asked you to meet me at Starbucks. Why did you believe me? I was Derek's assistant. I could have been setting you up or lying or trying to manipulate you. But you took me seriously immediately. Why? I thought about that. Because you were scared. Really scared. And because what you were telling me confirms things I'd already noticed but didn't have proof of. You gave me the missing pieces I needed to see the full picture. Plus, I paused. Plus, I could tell you were telling the truth. After 18 years of planning weddings, you develop a sense for when people are being genuine versus performing. You were genuine. I was terrified, Michelle admitted. I'd convinced myself I was being paranoid, that there was some innocent explanation for everything Derek was doing, that I was seeing patterns that weren't there. When I finally called you, it was because I couldn't live with myself if I was right and I did nothing. That took courage. Or stupidity. I'm still not sure which. Courage, I said firmly. Definitely courage. We exchanged numbers and promised to stay in touch. As I watched Michelle walk away, this young woman who'd risked everything to save someone she barely knew, I felt something like hope. Bad things happen. Terrible people exist. Systems fail and people get hurt. But sometimes, if you're very lucky, you find the people who refuse to look away. The people who see something wrong and decide to act even when it costs them. The people who choose integrity over comfort. Michelle was one of those people. And so was I. That had to count for something. Derek Hastings' trial began in May, 11 months after Lauren's collapse. The media attention had died down somewhat in the intervening months, but the trial brought it roaring back. Reporters camped outside the courthouse. Camera crews jockeyed for position. Legal analysts dissected every development on cable news. The prosecution's case was straightforward. Derek Hastings had systematically poisoned his fiancée over 6 months with the intent to marry her, wait a brief period to avoid suspicion, then kill her and inherit millions of dollars. They had evidence, mountains of it. The journal from Derek's computer, with its detailed documentation of dosages and symptoms. The physical poison found in his apartment. The invoices Michelle had provided, the life insurance policy, Lauren's medical records showing chronic arsenic poisoning, the testimony of multiple witnesses, me, Michelle, Patricia, from the Ashford estate, even some of Derek's colleagues who testified about his financial troubles. Derek's defense team, expensive, aggressive, highly skilled, tried several tactics. First, they tried to argue that Derek was also a victim, that someone else must have planted the poison in his apartment, faked the journal entries, framed him. This fell apart when digital forensics confirmed the journal had been written over months from Derek's personal computer using his password-protected account, and when the prosecution demonstrated that Derek had been the only person with access to his locked office drawer where the poison was found. Then they tried to argue that Lauren had been poisoning herself, that she had Munchausen syndrome or was suicidal, and Derek had been desperately trying to help her. This fell apart when Lauren's therapist, she'd started seeing one during her recovery, testified that Lauren showed no signs of self-harm or attention-seeking behavior. And when the prosecution pointed out that someone who was suicidal wouldn't methodically plan their own wedding while supposedly poisoning themselves. Finally, they tried to attack the credibility of the witnesses, particularly me and Michelle. Derek's lawyer, a woman named Patricia Kendrick, who probably cost more per hour than I made in a week, went after me hard during my testimony. "Ms. Sinclair," she said, her voice dripping with skepticism, "you claim you were concerned about Miss Castellano's health, yet you continued planning a wedding you believed was harmful to her. Doesn't that seem contradictory?" "I was gathering evidence," I said calmly, "and trying to figure out how to help her without alerting Derek to my suspicions. Or perhaps you were being paid handsomely to plan this wedding and didn't want to lose the income. I refunded the full payment after the wedding was canceled," I replied. "Every penny, it's documented." "How convenient. Tell me, Miss Sinclair, how many of your other clients have you diagnosed with medical conditions? Do you typically play doctor along with planning weddings?" Objection. The prosecutor, Assistant DA James Morrison, stood. Argumentative. "Sustained," Judge Reeves said. "Ms. Kendrick, rephrase." "Ms. Sinclair, do you have any medical training?" "No." "Any formal education in toxicology?" "No." "Any law enforcement background?" "No." "So you're just a wedding planner who decided she knew better than Miss Castellano's doctor? Better than her family? Better than everyone in her life?" I took a breath. This was the moment. I'm a wedding planner who's been working with couples for 18 years. I've seen hundreds of relationships, healthy ones and unhealthy ones. I've seen love and I've seen control. I saw Lauren Castellano being isolated, controlled, and physically deteriorating. And I trusted my instincts that something was very wrong. I documented everything I observed and sought help. from someone who had additional evidence. Together, we saved her life. So yes, I decided I knew better than people who weren't paying attention. Several jurors nodded. I saw one woman in the back row wipe her eyes. Patricia Kendrick changed tactics. This orchestrated collapse you engineered. You forced a medical crisis in a woman without her consent, didn't you? I ensured she received medical care that revealed she was being poisoned. By preventing her from taking vitamins and supplements she believed were helping her health. By deliberately inducing stress to make her collapse. Those are your actions, yes? Yes. Do you realize you could have killed her? That forcing a medical emergency in someone who's already compromised could have been fatal. It was a calculated risk, I said. And the alternative was certain death. Derek was increasing the dosages. Lauren wouldn't have survived another month. I chose the risk that came with medical intervention over the certainty that came with doing nothing. You're not a doctor. How could you possibly know? Because I read Derek's journal, I interrupted. The prosecution shared it with me during case preparation. I saw his notes. Subject responding well to increased dosage. Symptoms progressing as expected. Weakness now preventing independent mobility. He was tracking her death like a science experiment. So yes, I knew, and I'd make the same choice again. The courtroom was silent. No further questions, Patricia Kendrick said tightly. Michelle's testimony was similarly brutal. They attacked her for violating confidentiality, for keeping copies of business records, for betraying her employer. But Michelle held firm. I couldn't let him murder someone, she said simply. That's not betrayal. That's basic human decency. The defense tried to make it seem like Michelle had ulterior motives, that she was jealous of Derek's success or angry about her job duties or seeking attention. You were just an assistant, Patricia Kendrick said dismissively. Why would anyone take your accusations seriously? Because I had proof, Michelle said. And because being just an assistant meant I saw everything. I processed his orders, managed his schedule, handled his personal errands. I had access to information no one else did. That's not insignificance. That's power. I just decided to use it for something good. The most devastating testimony came from Lauren herself. She took the stand on the 4th day of the trial. She looked healthy now. Not fully recovered, the doctor said that would take years. But so much better than that skeletal bride I'd seen 11 months ago. Her hair had grown back thicker. Her skin had color. She'd gained weight. She looked alive. She looked strong. The prosecutor took her through her relationship with Derek from the beginning. The courtship that felt more like a business negotiation. The engagement she didn't remember agreeing to. One day, Derek just had a ring and told her they were getting married. The apartment he moved her into, the job he arranged for her at his insistence, the friends he slowly isolated her from. And then the symptoms. The slow, insidious decline she couldn't explain. When did you first realize you were being poisoned? Morrison asked. The morning of the wedding, Lauren said, her voice steady. Derek brought me a smoothie. He always made me smoothies. He said they were healthy, full of vitamins and protein. But that morning, I didn't drink it right away. I got distracted by a phone call from my friend Jess. When I finally picked up the smoothie later, it had separated, and I saw there was sediment at the bottom, white powder that hadn't mixed properly. She paused, visibly controlling her emotions. I'd seen that sediment before in other drinks Derek made me, but I always drank them right away, so it was mixed in. That morning, seeing it separated, something clicked. I thought about how I only felt sick after consuming things Derek gave me, how my vitamins came from bottles he ordered, not ones I bought myself, how he always insisted I take them in front of him. And I thought, this can't be real. This is paranoid. This is crazy. What did you do? Morrison prompted gently. I poured the smoothie down the drain. I didn't take the vitamins that day, and for the first time in months, I felt not better exactly, but different, clearer. Like fog was lifting slightly. That's when I knew I was right. That's when I knew Derek was the reason I was sick. Why didn't you cancel the wedding? Because I was terrified. Of Derek, of my father, of what would happen if I backed out. I felt trapped. I thought maybe I could go through with the ceremony and then, I don't know, get help later, file for annulment, something. I wasn't thinking clearly. I'd been poisoned for 6 months, but I knew I needed to tell someone, so I left that note for Maya. The note that said, "Help me, please." Yes, I didn't know if she'd see it or understand it, but she was the only person who'd been paying attention, the only one who'd asked if I was okay and seemed to actually want an answer. So I asked her for help, and Lauren's voice broke. She saved my life. The defense's cross-examination tried to make Lauren seem unreliable, confused by the poison, possibly misremembering things influenced by prosecution coaching. But Lauren was unshakable. "Did Derek Hastings poison you?" Patricia Kendrick asked directly. "Yes." "How can you be certain?" "Because I saw his journal. I read every entry. Every time he documented giving me arsenic, I can match it to a day I felt violently ill. Every time he noted increasing the dose, I can match it to when my symptoms got worse. He wrote it all down. He was proud of it. He thought he was being clever. So yes, I'm certain." "You must be very angry at him." "I'm devastated. I trusted him. I was going to marry him, and he was killing me. So yes, I'm angry. But more than that, I'm grateful I survived. I'm grateful people like Maya and Michelle cared enough to notice. And I'm grateful that Derek will never get the chance to do this to anyone else." The defense had no response to that. The trial lasted 3 weeks total. The jury deliberated for 7 hours. I wasn't in the courtroom when the verdict was read. I was at a wedding consultation, ironically enough, with a couple who'd specifically sought me out after reading about the case. But my phone started buzzing at 3:47 p.m. with texts from Michelle, from Lauren, from Detective Chen, even from Vincent Castellano, all saying the same thing: guilty. Guilty on all counts: attempted murder, fraud, conspiracy, assault on an officer, every single charge. I excused myself from the consultation and called Michelle immediately. "We won," she said, and I could hear tears in her voice. "Maya, we actually won." How did Derek react? No reaction at all. He just stood there when the verdict was read, completely blank, like he couldn't comprehend that he'd lost. His lawyer tried to maintain composure, but even she looked shocked. I think they really believed they'd get off on reasonable doubt or jury sympathy. And Lauren, she cried, her friend Jess was there with her, and they just held each other and cried. Vincent was there too. They've been working on their relationship in therapy. It's complicated, but they're trying. What's the sentence? Sentencing is in 2 weeks, but the prosecutor said with the charges and aggravating factors, Derek's looking at 25 to life. No parole eligibility for at least 20 years. 25 to life. Derek Hastings, brilliant investment banker, careful planner, systematic poisoner, would spend the next decades in prison. Justice, I thought. It actually happened. "Michelle, are you okay?" I asked. I don't know, relieved, exhausted. It's been almost a year of this. The investigation, the media attention, the trial preparation, the testimony. I thought I'd feel more triumphant when it was over. Instead, I just feel tired. That's normal. It was traumatic for all of us. Give yourself time to process. What about you? How do you feel? I thought about that. Grateful. Grateful it worked. Grateful Lauren's alive. Grateful the justice system actually functioned the way it's supposed to. And yes, also exhausted. We talked for a few more minutes, then I went back to my consultation. The couple, Emma and Thomas, both teachers, sweet and genuine, were understanding about the interruption. "Is everything okay?" Emma asked. "Yes," I said, and I meant it. "Everything's okay. Actually, everything's better than okay. Now, where were we? You were telling me about your vision for the ceremony." Life slowly returned to something resembling normal. The media attention faded. Other stories took precedence. Derek Hastings became yesterday's news, filed away in the public consciousness under that wedding poisoning case. But for those of us who'd lived it, the effects lingered. Lauren's recovery was ongoing. I visited her every few weeks. We'd developed an unlikely friendship born from crisis. She was living with her friend Jess now, working part-time at a nonprofit, while taking online classes in social work. "I'm doing what Michelle's doing," she told me during one visit. "Getting my degree, figuring out how to help people. I never want anyone to feel as trapped as I felt, as helpless. So I'm going to learn how to spot the signs, how to offer real help, how to build support systems that actually work." "That's incredible, Lauren." "It's terrifying," she corrected. I'm 29 years old and I'm essentially starting my life over. I've never lived independently, never had a real career, never made decisions without someone else's approval, but I'm learning, slowly. House therapy, hard, really hard. My therapist says I have complex PTSD from the poisoning in the relationship. We're working through trust issues, control issues, all the ways Derek's manipulation rewired how I think about relationships and myself, but I'm making progress. And your father, Lauren's expression complicated? We're working on it. He's in therapy too, which helps. He's confronting his role in what happened, how he prioritized business over my well-being, how he didn't listen when I said something was wrong, how he essentially endorsed Derek's control over me. It's painful for both of us, but necessary. I don't know if our relationship will ever be what it was or what I thought it was, but maybe it can be something better. More honest. That's all you can ask for. He wants to fund my education, Lauren said. Pay for my degree, support me while I figure out my career. Part of me wants to refuse, wants to prove I can do it on my own. But part of me recognizes that accepting help isn't weakness, that I was poisoned for 6 months and I'm still recovering, and maybe it's okay to let my father help in this way, to let his guilt be productive. Both things can be true, I said. You can be independent and still accept support. That's what my therapist says. I'm trying to believe it. Michelle, meanwhile, had started graduate school. She'd been accepted into a master's program in social work with a focus on domestic violence and victim advocacy. She worked part-time at a women's shelter and volunteered with an organization that helped abuse survivors navigate the legal system. I'm exactly where I'm supposed to be, she told me when we met for coffee. A regular occurrence now. Morrison and Stokes tried to blacklist me in finance, but it turns out I don't want to work in finance anyway. I want to do this. I want to help people who are in situations like Lauren was, where everyone's telling them they're fine, but they know something's wrong. You're going to be amazing at it. I hope so. I think about what would have happened if I hadn't called you, if I just dismissed my suspicions and filed those invoices and moved on with my life. Lauren would be dead. Derek would have gotten away with it, and I'd have spent the rest of my life knowing I saw the evidence and did nothing. But you didn't do nothing. You acted. That's what matters. I acted because you took me seriously, because you didn't dismiss me as some paranoid assistant seeing patterns that weren't there. You believed me, and that gave me the courage to follow through. We'd become friends, Michelle and I, and Lauren too. The three of us had dinner together once a month. 3 women from completely different backgrounds, brought together by crisis, bound by the knowledge that we'd saved a life. As for me, my business evolved. I was more selective about clients now. I asked harder questions. I paid closer attention to dynamics. If something fell off, I didn't take the booking, no matter how much they were willing to pay. Some people thought I was being overly cautious. But I'd rather turn away 10 legitimate couples than take on one that reminded me of Derek and Lauren. I also started doing something new. I taught workshops for other wedding vendors about recognizing signs of abuse and control in client relationships. How to document concerns. Who to contact if you suspected something was wrong. How to balance professional boundaries with ethical responsibility. You can't save everyone, I told a room full of photographers, florists, and caterers at one workshop. But you can pay attention. You can trust your instincts. You can document what you see. And sometimes that's enough to make a difference. One photographer raised her hand. But what if we're wrong? What if we see something that isn't there? Then you were overly cautious, I said. You erred on the side of caring. That's not a bad thing. But in the case I was involved in, every instinct I had was right. I just didn't trust them soon enough. So I'd rather be the person who cares too much than the person who looked away when someone needed help. The workshop had been Detective Chen's idea. She'd reached out 6 months after the trial to ask if I'd be interested in consulting with the police department on recognizing domestic abuse patterns in non-traditional settings. We're trained to spot it in police calls and hospital visits, she'd said. But we miss it in country clubs and wedding venues and upper-class settings where the abuse is sophisticated and hidden. People like you, vendors who interact with couples in their social settings, you see things we don't. We need to train people to recognize it and report it. So I'd started consulting, teaching. Sharing what I'd learned, Ethan thought it was the perfect evolution of my career. You've always been more than just a wedding planner, he said. You care about people. Now you're using your experience to help protect them. I'm proud of you. I'm just doing what seems right. That's exactly why I'm proud of you. 1 year after Lauren's collapse at the altar, the three of us, Lauren, Michelle, and I, met at the same cafe where Michelle and I had first planned how to save Lauren's life. It wasn't a celebration exactly, more of an acknowledgement, a marking of time, a recognition that we'd all survived something that had fundamentally changed us. Lauren looked healthy now. Actually healthy, not just makeup and performance. She'd gained weight. Her hair was shiny and thick. Her skin glowed. She looked like a woman in her late 20s should look. Alive, vibrant, present. I got accepted into the graduate program, she announced when we sat down. MSW with a specialization in trauma recovery. I start in the fall. Michelle grinned. We'll be in the same department, study buddies. I'm going to need all the help I can get. I haven't been a serious student in years. My undergraduate degree was basically just me showing up and doing the minimum while I waited to get married. You'll be great, I said, and you're one of the strongest people I know. I don't feel strong. I feel like I'm constantly one step away from falling apart. That's strength, Michelle said. Continuing forward even when you feel like you might shatter. That's literally the definition of strength. We ordered coffee and pastries. Lauren still struggled with food sometimes. The poisoning had done lasting damage to her digestive system, but she was working with a nutritionist and making progress. I got something in the mail yesterday, Lauren said, pulling an envelope from her bag. From Derek. Michelle and I both tensed. He's not supposed to contact you, I said immediately. There's a protective order. It went through his lawyer. Apparently that makes it legal. It's a letter. I haven't opened it yet. She placed it on the table between us like it might explode. I don't know if I want to. You don't have to, Michelle said. You can throw it away. You can burn it. You don't owe him anything, including reading his words. I know, but part of me is curious. What could he possibly have to say? Is it an apology, a justification, more manipulation? Probably manipulation, I said. People like Derek don't change. He's in prison for attempted murder. He's not suddenly going to have a come-to-Jesus moment and take genuine responsibility. But what if he does? What if he actually acknowledges what he did? Would that help me? Would it give me closure? Or it could re-traumatize you, Michelle said gently. Lauren, you're in a good place right now. You're healing. You're building a new life. A letter from Derek could undo months of progress. Lauren looked at the envelope. You're probably right. She pushed it toward me. Maya, will you open it? Read it first. Tell me if there's anything in it I actually need to know. Are you sure? I trust you. You've proven you'll protect me even when it costs you. So yes, I'm sure. I picked up the envelope carefully, as if it really might explode, opened it, read the handwritten letter inside. It was 2 pages, Derek's precise, controlled handwriting. As I read, my jaw tightened. Well, Lauren asked, is it an apology? No, I said flatly. It's a manipulation. He says he loves you, that everything he did was to help you because you were fragile and needed guidance. He says the poisoning was a misunderstanding, that he was giving you supplements and didn't realize they were contaminated with arsenic from the manufacturing process. He says if you'd just communicated better with him, none of this would have happened. He blames you for overreacting and causing his arrest. Lauren's face went pale. Even now, he's still trying to make it my fault. Yes, and then he asked you to write a letter to the parole board supporting his early release. Says you owe him that after everything he did for you. Everything he did for me? Lauren's voice was shaking. He tried to murder me. I know. This letter is classic Darvo, deny, attack, reverse victim and offender. He's denying responsibility, attacking your credibility, and positioning himself as the real victim. It's textbook abusive behavior. Michelle took the letter from me and read it herself. Her face darkened with anger. This is disgusting. Lauren, you don't need closure from this man. He's never going to give you what you need. He's incapable of it. What do I do with this? Lauren asked, and she looked young suddenly, vulnerable, like the scared bride I'd met a year ago. You throw it away, I said firmly. You don't respond. You don't engage. You let your lawyer know he contacted you through his lawyer, so there's a record in case he tries again. and then you move on with your life. Derek doesn't get to have any more of your time or energy or emotional space. He's in prison. You're free. Don't let him take the freedom away by giving him power over your thoughts. Lauren nodded slowly. You're right. I know you're right. It's just I thought maybe a year later, he'd have some perspective, some remorse, some acknowledgement of what he actually did. People like Derek don't develop remorse, Michelle said. They develop better manipulation tactics. This letter is him trying to regain control by making you doubt yourself and feel guilty. Don't let him. Lauren took the letter back, folded it carefully, and placed it back in the envelope. Then she tore it in half and half again and kept tearing until it was confetti on the table. There, she said, that's my response. We gathered up the pieces and threw them away. It felt symbolic, cathartic, a physical representation of rejecting Derek's continued attempts at control. I have something I want to say, Lauren said when we sat back down. To both of you. This past year has been the hardest of my life. The recovery, the trial, the therapy, all of it. But it's also been the best year of my life. Because for the first time, I'm living it for me. I'm making my own choices. I'm building my own future. And I never would have gotten here if you two hadn't risked everything to save me. She pulled out 2 small boxes from her bag. I got you both something. It's not much, but I wanted you to have something to remember. Well, everything. Michelle opened her box first. Inside was a delicate silver bracelet with a small charm, a lighthouse. Because you helped me find my way to safety, Lauren said. Michelle's eyes filled with tears. Lauren, you didn't have to. I wanted to. Open yours, Maya. I opened my box. Inside was a similar silver bracelet, but my charm was a compass. Because you helped me find my direction when I was completely lost, Lauren explained. You both did. You saw me when I was invisible. You heard me when I was silent. You saved me when I was dying. I can never repay that, but I can make sure you know what you did mattered. That I'm here, alive, building a life, because of you. I put on the bracelet, feeling the weight of it. Not heavy, but present. A reminder. You saved yourself too, I told Lauren. You left me that note. You asked for help. You survived long enough for help to arrive. That's not nothing. We all saved each other, Michelle said, fastening her own bracelet. That's what I've learned this year, that sometimes you can't survive alone. Sometimes you need other people to see what you can't see, to do what you can't do, to believe you when you doubt yourself. That's not weakness. That's human. We sat there, 3 women wearing matching bracelets, bound together by trauma and survival, and the knowledge that we'd done something impossible. We'd stopped a murder. We'd exposed a killer. We'd saved a life. And in doing so, we'd learned something about ourselves, about what we were capable of, what we valued, what we would risk for a stranger who needed help. To being alive, Lauren said, raising her coffee cup. To being free, Michelle added. To trusting our instincts, I finished. We clinked our cups together, 3 unlikely friends, 3 women who'd faced something terrible and come out the other side changed but unbroken. The wedding that never happened had given us something the actual wedding never could have. The truth, and the courage to act on it. That I thought was worth more than any celebration. The Derek Hastings case changed everything for me. Not just my business or my approach to wedding planning, though those certainly evolved, but something deeper. My understanding of what my role actually is. What it means to be the person who sees couples at their most vulnerable, their most honest, their most real. I'm not just planning flowers and timelines. I'm witnessing the beginning of partnerships that will shape lives. And sometimes I'm witnessing the warning signs of partnerships that will end them. In part 5, the final part, I'll tell you about what happened in the years that followed. About where Lauren is now and Michelle and even Detective Chen. About the other weddings I've planned since, and the one red flag situation I encountered that made me use everything I learned from Lauren's case. About the wedding industry workshop that became a national training program. About the book Lauren wrote about her experience. About the nonprofit Michelle founded. about the ways one nearly fatal wedding rippled outward and changed more lives than just the people directly involved. And I'll tell you about the wedding I planned 6 months ago for a bride who reminded me of Lauren in all the ways that mattered, and how this time I knew exactly what to do from the very first meeting. Because that's the thing about experience, about pattern recognition, about learning from near tragedies. You get better at spotting them. You get faster at responding. You get braver about intervening. After 18 years and over 600 weddings, I've learned that sometimes the best wedding is the one that doesn't happen. And sometimes saving a bride means destroying her fairy tale to reveal the nightmare underneath. That's not a failure of wedding planning. That's wedding planning at its most essential. 3 years after Lauren collapsed at her wedding, I was sitting in a hotel ballroom in Chicago, watching her give a keynote speech to 300 people. The conference was called Seeing the Invisible, Recognizing Intimate Partner Violence in Unexpected Places. Lauren had been invited as the featured speaker, survivor turned advocate, author of the memoir that had spent 6 weeks on the New York Times bestseller list, founder of a nonprofit that trained service workers to recognize signs of abuse. She looked nothing like the fragile poison bride I'd met 4 years ago. She wore a navy suit, her hair professionally styled, her makeup confident. But more than the physical transformation, it was her presence that struck me. She commanded the room. She owned her story. She'd taken the worst thing that had ever happened to her and turned it into her life's purpose. "I was dying in plain sight," Lauren said from the podium, her voice clear and strong. "Everyone could see I was losing weight, getting weaker, becoming a shadow of myself. But no one knew what to do with that information. My doctor said it was anxiety. My father said I was high-strung. My friends thought it was wedding stress. Everyone had an explanation that made sense, so no one asked the harder question. What if someone is hurting her?" The audience was rapt. I could see people taking notes, nodding, some wiping tears. Except 2 people did ask that question. Lauren continued. My wedding planner, Maya Sinclair, and my fiancé's assistant, Michelle Yang. 2 women who had no obligation to care about me beyond their professional responsibilities. 2 women who noticed patterns, documented evidence, and took enormous personal risk to save my life. They're both here today, and I want to acknowledge them. She gestured to where Michelle and I sat in the front row. The audience applauded. Michelle squeezed my hand. Maya and Michelle taught me something crucial, Lauren said. That sometimes strangers care more than the people who are supposed to love you, that professional boundaries don't have to mean turning a blind eye to suffering, that it's possible to do your job and do the right thing at the same time. And that's what this conference is about, teaching all of you who work in service industries, who interact with couples and families, how to see what's really happening and how to respond appropriately. She went on to outline the warning signs she wished people had recognized sooner, the isolation tactics, the control over food and medication, the way Derek spoke for her, decided for her, monitored her constantly, the weight loss everyone noticed but explained away, the exhaustion everyone attributed to wedding planning. Abusers like Derek are sophisticated, she said. They don't look like monsters. They look like successful, charming, helpful partners. They isolate their victims so gradually that no one notices. They explain away concerning behavior so convincingly that people believe them. They operate in plain sight because they've learned that most people don't want to see what's uncomfortable. Most people want to believe everything is fine. A woman in the 3rd row raised her hand. Lauren nodded to her. How do we balance professional boundaries with intervention? The woman asked. I'm a wedding photographer. If I see something concerning, am I supposed to report it, confront the person? I'm afraid of overstepping or making things worse. That's exactly the right question, Lauren said. And there's no perfect answer, because every situation is different. But here's what I wish people had done for me. Document what you see. Trust your instincts. If something feels wrong, it probably is. You don't have to diagnose abuse or confront the abuser. You just have to let the victim know they have options and support. She clicked to her next slide, which showed a simple flowchart I recognized. Michelle had developed it for the nonprofit. Notice, document, connect, support. Those are the 4 steps. Notice the patterns. Document what you observe with dates and details. Connect the person with resources, hotlines, domestic violence organizations, professionals who can help. and support them in whatever decision they make, even if they're not ready to leave. The presentation continued for another 40 minutes. By the end, half the audience was in tears, and everyone was on their feet applauding. Afterward, during the networking reception, we were swarmed by people wanting to talk, to share their own stories, to ask for advice. A florist from Seattle told us about a bride she'd worked with who showed up to meetings with bruises she explained as clumsiness. The florist hadn't known what to do, so she'd done nothing. The bride married the abusive partner. The florist still carried guilt about not intervening. "I didn't know how," she said, tears streaming down her face. "I didn't know it was my place. I didn't want to assume. But I think about her all the time. I hope she's okay." "Now you know," Lauren said gently, handing her a card for the nonprofit. "Now you have training and resources. You can't change the past, but you can be ready for the next time." A caterer from Boston told us about recognizing control patterns in a groom who micromanaged every aspect of his fiancé's food choices. The caterer had pulled the bride aside and simply said, "Are you okay? Really okay?" The bride broke down crying and admitted she was terrified. The caterer connected her with a domestic violence counselor. The wedding was canceled 2 weeks later. The bride sent a thank you card that said, "You saved my life." "That's exactly what we're trying to teach," Michelle said. "You don't have to be a therapist or a detective. You just have to care enough to ask the question and provide a lifeline, story after story, person after person, all of them carrying either guilt about someone they didn't help or pride about someone they did." The ripple effect of one wedding that never happened was spreading wider than I'd ever imagined. Later that evening, after the conference ended, Lauren, Michelle, and I had dinner together at a quiet restaurant away from the hotel. It had become our tradition. Whenever we were in the same city for a conference or speaking engagement, we made time for just the three of us. No cameras, no audience, no professional obligations, just three friends who'd been through something extraordinary together. "So," Lauren said, raising her wine glass, "updates. Michelle, you first. How's the nonprofit?" Michelle's organization, Safe Witness Coalition, had grown from a small volunteer operation to a nationally recognized training program. They'd trained over 10,000 service workers in the past 2 years. Photographers, florists, caterers, wedding planners, hotel staff, anyone who interacted with couples in social or celebratory settings. "We just got a grant from the Department of Justice," Michelle said, grinning. $2 million over 3 years to expand the training program nationally. We're hiring 6 new staff members. We're developing an app that allows service workers to report concerns anonymously and connects victims with local resources. We're partnering with universities to integrate this training into hospitality and event management programs. "That's incredible," I said. "You've built something amazing." "We've built something," Michelle corrected. "You're on our advisory board. Lauren is our spokesperson. This isn't my organization, it's ours. All 3 of us." "How's the graduate degree going?" Lauren asked. "I defended my thesis last month. Officially have my MSW now." "Dr. Michelle Yang," we cheered. The tables around us looked over, and we didn't care. "My turn," Lauren said. "The book is being adapted into a limited series, Netflix. They want to start production next year. They've asked if I want to be a consultant on the project, make sure they handle the abuse and poisoning aspects responsibly." "Are you going to do it?" I asked. "I think so. It's terrifying. Reliving it all again, watching actors portray the worst period of my life. But if it helps even one person recognize what's happening to them, it's worth it. Plus, they're paying me an obscene amount of money, which I'm donating to Michelle's nonprofit and other domestic violence organizations." "You don't have to donate it all," Michelle protested. "You survived something horrible. You earned that money." "And I'm using it to help others survive," Lauren said firmly. "I don't need millions of dollars. I have a job I love, an apartment I can afford, a life that's actually mine. The money can do more good helping other people." She worked as a trauma counselor, now at a women's shelter, specializing in survivors of intimate partner violence. She'd found her calling in the same place she'd found her recovery, helping others navigate the aftermath of abuse. "Also," Lauren added with a shy smile, "I'm dating someone." Michelle and I both froze. "What?" I said. "When did this happen?" 3 months ago. Her name is Rebecca. She's a teacher. We met at a trauma survivors support group. She was in an abusive relationship in college. We've been taking it very, very slowly. Just coffee and walks and talking. Nothing physical yet. I'm not ready for that. Maybe I won't be ready for a long time. But you're trying, Michelle said. That's huge, Lauren. It's terrifying. Every time she reaches for my hand, I have a moment of panic. Every time she suggests doing something together, I have to fight the urge to check if it's really what I want or if I'm just agreeing to please her. My therapist says that's normal, that after what Derek did, it's going to take time to trust my own judgment in relationships. But Rebecca is patient. She understands. And for the first time in my life, I'm in something that feels like actual partnership instead of ownership. I'm so proud of you, I said, and I meant it. After everything she'd been through, Lauren was choosing to be vulnerable again. To try again, to believe that not everyone was Derek. What about you and your father? Michelle asked carefully. Lauren's relationship with Vincent had been rocky. They'd spent 2 years in family therapy, working through the betrayal and the guilt and the complicated love that existed alongside the pain. We're okay, Lauren said. Not perfect. Maybe we'll never be perfect, but we're honest now. He acknowledges what he did, how he prioritized business over my safety, how he dismissed my concerns, how he basically handed me to Derek without asking if it's what I wanted. And I've acknowledged that he didn't know, that he was operating in a system that taught him daughters were assets to be strategically married off. We're both trying to be better. That's all you can do, I said. He closed the business, Lauren added. Castellano Development, sold it off piece by piece. He said he couldn't keep running a company he'd been willing to sacrifice his daughter for. Now he volunteers with organizations that provide business mentoring to women entrepreneurs. He's trying to make amends by helping other women build independence instead of dependence. That's actually beautiful, Michelle said. It doesn't undo what happened, but it's something. It's him trying. Lauren took a sip of her wine. Okay, Maya, your turn. How's the wedding planning business? I'd been dreading this question, not because things were bad, but because I wasn't sure how to explain how much had changed. I plan about 20 weddings a year now, I said, down from 40 before the Derek case. I'm extremely selective about who I work with. How do you decide? Michelle asked. I have a consultation process now that's much more intensive. I meet with couples 3 times before I agree to plan their wedding. I ask harder questions. I observe how they interact. I trust my instincts immediately. If something feels off, I don't take the booking, no matter how much money they offer. Have you turned people away? Dozens. And I'm sure some of them were perfectly fine couples who just rubbed me the wrong way. But I'd rather be overly cautious than plan another wedding like Derek and Lauren's. I'd also started doing something else, working as a consultant for a private investigation firm that specialized in prenuptial background checks. Wealthy families would hire the firm to vet potential spouses, and I'd review the couple's interactions, their communication patterns, any concerning dynamics. I'm basically a professional red flag identifier now, I said, which sounds ridiculous, but apparently there's a market for it. Families who've been burned by gold diggers or abusers want someone with experience to look at the relationship objectively. That's actually brilliant, Lauren said, using pattern recognition as a protective service. It's morally complicated, I admitted. Sometimes I'm hired by controlling parents who just don't like their child's partner for classist or racist reasons. I have to navigate between legitimate concerns and family prejudice. But when I do find genuine red flags, controlling behavior, financial abuse patterns, isolation tactics, I document everything and present it to the family. What they do with that information is up to them. Have you stopped any weddings? Michelle asked, directly. No, but I've provided information that led 3 couples to reconsider their relationships. 1 broke up. 1 postponed the wedding to do couples therapy. 1 went ahead anyway, and I have a feeling I'll see that case in the news someday. The waiter brought our entrees. We ate in comfortable silence for a moment, each lost in our own thoughts. There's something I haven't told you both yet, I said finally. Something that happened 6 months ago. They both looked up. I had a client, potential client. She came to me for a consultation. Her name was Amanda. She was 26, engaged to a successful doctor named Marcus. Everything about their dynamic reminded me of Derek and Lauren. I described the consultation, how Marcus had dominated the conversation, how Amanda had looked to him before answering any question, how thin she'd seemed, how exhausted, how Marcus had mentioned he'd been helping Amanda with her health by preparing special meals and supplements. It was like watching a replay. I said, different people, same patterns, and this time I knew exactly what I was looking at. What did you do? Lauren asked. I told them I was booked and couldn't take their wedding. Then I asked to speak with Amanda privately for a moment. Said I wanted to discuss some details about her dress for timeline planning purposes. Marcus hesitated, but he couldn't refuse, without looking controlling in front of me. Smart, Michelle said. Amanda and I went to my office. The moment the door closed, I asked her, are you safe? Really, truly safe. She broke down immediately. Said Marcus controlled everything. Her food, her schedule, her money, her friends. Said she'd been feeling sick for weeks, but Marcus said it was just stress. Said she didn't know how to get out because Marcus was well connected and had threatened to ruin her career if she embarrassed him by breaking off the engagement. My voice was shaking now, remembering. I told her about Lauren, about Derek, about what systematic poisoning looks like. I gave her Detective Chen's card and the number for Safe Witness Coalition. I told her she didn't have to marry him, that her life was worth more than avoiding embarrassment, that people who actually loved you didn't threaten to ruin you. Did she leave him? Lauren asked quietly. She called off the wedding 3 days later, moved in with her sister, got a comprehensive medical exam. Turned out Marcus had been giving her weight loss supplements laced with dangerous stimulants. Not arsenic like Derek used, but substances that were causing heart problems and kidney damage. She would have had a heart attack within a year if she'd kept taking them. Oh my God, Michelle breathed. She's pressing charges. Marcus is under investigation. I gave a statement to the police about what I observed, and Amanda, I pulled out my phone and showed them a photo. She sent me this last week. The photo showed Amanda, healthy, smiling with a group of friends at a hiking trail. She looked vibrant, alive, free. The message with it said, "Thank you for asking the question no one else would ask. You saved my life." The table was silent. I saw tears in Lauren's eyes. That's why we do this, Lauren said finally. That's why we talk about it and train people and write books and give speeches, so that for every victim who doesn't survive, there are more who do. More Amandas and more Laurens. More women who get asked the right question at the right time by someone brave enough to care. More Mayas and Michelles, Michelle added. More people who refuse to look away. We raised our glasses, water for Lauren, who didn't drink alcohol anymore, wine for Michelle and me. To seeing the invisible, Lauren said. To trusting our instincts, Michelle added. To asking the hard questions, I finished. We clinked glasses, 3 women who'd been brought together by crisis, bound by purpose, committed to making sure what happened to Lauren happened to fewer people. The Derek Hastings case had destroyed a wedding and exposed a murderer, but it had also created a network of awareness, a system of protection, a community of people who decided that looking away was no longer acceptable. That was worth more than any celebration, which brings me to now, to today. To the reason I'm telling you this story. I'm sitting in my office, the same office where I met Lauren and Derek 4 years ago, with a new potential client. Her name is Sarah. She's 27. She's engaged to a man named Ryan who works in tech. They want to get married next June, and everything about this consultation is setting off alarm bells. Ryan has done all the talking for the past 20 minutes. Sarah has barely made eye contact with me. She's thin. Not dramatically so, but noticeably. She keeps touching her throat like it hurts. When Ryan mentions that he's been helping Sarah stick to a health regimen, I feel my stomach drop. Sarah, I say, interrupting Ryan mid-sentence about his vision for the ceremony. What's your dream for your wedding day? What do you want most? She looks at Ryan before answering. He nods slightly. I just want Ryan to be happy, she says quietly. Not, I want to marry the love of my life. Not, I want to celebrate with family and friends. Not, I want to feel beautiful and loved. Just, I want Ryan to be happy. I've heard this before. I know what this is. Ryan, I say, keeping my voice professional. Would you mind stepping out for just a moment? I need to discuss some specific bridal details with Sarah. Dress timeline, beauty prep, that kind of thing. Just girl talk. Ryan's eyes narrow slightly. I think I should stay. I want to make sure we're all on the same page about everything. I completely understand, but trust me, you don't want to be bored with discussions about shapewear and false eyelash brands. I promise it'll only take 5 minutes. He doesn't want to leave. I can see it in his face, but refusing would look bizarre, controlling. So he stands. 5 minutes, he says, to Sarah, not to me, like he's setting a timer on her freedom. Of course, I say smoothly. He leaves, the door closes. I have maybe 3 minutes before he comes back, making an excuse about a phone call or needing to check his schedule. Sarah, I say, moving my chair closer to hers. I need to ask you something, and I need you to hear it. Are you safe? She blinks. What? Are you safe with Ryan? Really, truly safe? Yes, of course. Why would you? You haven't made a single decision in this meeting. You look to him before answering any question. You're very thin. You mentioned feeling tired all the time. He talks about helping you with your health routine. Sarah, these are patterns I've seen before. Patterns that ended with someone being seriously hurt. Her face goes pale. I don't know what if Ryan is controlling what you eat, what you take, who you see, where you go, that's not love. That's control. And if you're feeling sick, if your health is declining, and Ryan is the one preparing your food or giving you supplements, you need to get comprehensively tested by a doctor you choose, not one he recommends. Tears fill her eyes. He says he's just trying to help me be my best self. He says I was overweight and unhealthy when we met, and he's helped me become better. What do you think? She stops, starts again. I don't know what I think anymore. I don't remember what I liked or wanted before Ryan. He has opinions about everything, and they're usually right, so I just let him decide. It's easier. Easier than what? Than fighting, than disagreeing, than being wrong. She's crying openly now. He says I need him, that I'd be nothing without him, that I should be grateful he tolerates my flaws. I've heard this too. This exact phrasing. It's from the abuser playbook. Convince the victim they're worthless, make them grateful for crumbs of affection, isolate them until the abuser is their entire world. Sarah, I'm going to give you something. I pull out cards, Detective Chen's. Safe Witness Coalitions, the National Domestic Violence Hotline. These are resources, people who can help. You don't have to call them today. You don't have to do anything you're not ready for. But I need you to know that what's happening to you isn't normal. And if you want help, it's available. Ryan will see these cards. He goes through my purse. Of course he does. Then take a photo with your phone and delete it immediately. Or memorize the numbers. Or text them to a friend Ryan doesn't know about. However you need to do it. But Sarah, please get help. Before it's too late. There's a knock on the door. Ryan, right on schedule. Come in, I call. He enters, all smiles. How did it go? All the boring bride details sorted out? Almost, I say. Sarah, did you want to tell Ryan about the dress timeline we discussed? I'm giving her a cover story in case he asks what we talked about. Yes, she says, wiping her eyes quickly. Maya explained about the fitting schedule and when I need to order the dress. Great. Ryan puts his hand on her shoulder. I watch her flinch almost imperceptibly. So Maya, we'd love to book you for next June. What's the next step? This is the moment, the decision I've faced before. Actually, I say, I need to be honest with you both. After reviewing my schedule, I'm not going to be able to take on your wedding. I'm already overcommitted for next June, and I wouldn't be able to give you the attention you deserve. Ryan's face darkens. Your website says you're accepting bookings. For other months, June is my busiest season, and I've reached my capacity. I can refer you to other excellent planners. We don't want other planners. We want you. Sarah specifically asked for you. I look at Sarah. She's staring at her hands. I'm flattered, I say, but I have to manage my workload responsibly. I'll email you a list of recommendations, all people I trust and who do beautiful work. Ryan stands abruptly. Come on, Sarah, we're done here. I don't understand why you wasted our time with this, Maya. Very unprofessional. He's already heading toward the door. Sarah stands to follow, moving automatically. At the doorway, she glances back at me. Our eyes meet. I nod slightly. You know where to find help. You know people are paying attention? She nods back, just barely, then she's gone. I sit at my desk for a long time after they leave, staring at nothing. Did I do enough? Should I have been more direct? Should I have called the police right then? But I know the answer. Sarah isn't ready. Maybe she'll never be ready. Maybe she'll marry Ryan and spend years in that relationship before she finds the courage to leave. Or maybe, just maybe, that 3-minute conversation planted a seed. Maybe tonight she'll think about what I said. Maybe she'll look up those resources. Maybe she'll realize that feeling controlled and diminished isn't normal. Maybe I saved her life today. Or maybe I just planted this seed that will save her life 6 months from now, or a year from now, or 5 years from now. That's the thing about this work. You don't always get to see the outcome. You don't always know if you made a difference, but you try anyway. Because sometimes, like with Lauren, you do make a difference. You do save someone. You do and stop something terrible from happening. And that possibility, that chance, that hope, it's worth every uncomfortable conversation, every refused booking, every moment of doubt. Which brings me to now, to today, to the reason I'm telling you this story. I'm sitting in my office, the same office where I met Lauren and Derek 4 years ago, with a new potential client. Her name is Sarah. She's 27. She's engaged to a man named Ryan who works in tech. They want to get married next June. And everything about this consultation is setting off alarm bells. Ryan has done all the talking for the past 20 minutes. Sarah has barely made eye contact with me. She's thin, not dramatically so, but noticeably. She keeps touching her throat like it hurts. When Ryan mentions that he's been helping Sarah stick to a health regimen, I feel my stomach drop. Sarah, I say, interrupting Ryan mid-sentence about his vision for the ceremony. What's your dream for your wedding day? What do you want most? She looks at Ryan before answering. He nods slightly. I just want Ryan to be happy, she says quietly. Not, I want to marry the love of my life. Not, I want to celebrate with family and friends. Not, I want to feel beautiful and loved. Just, I want Ryan to be happy. I've heard this before. I know what this is. Ryan, I say, keeping my voice professional. Would you mind stepping out for just a moment? I need to discuss some specific bridal details with Sarah. Dress timeline, beauty prep, that kind of thing. Just girl talk. Ryan's eyes narrow slightly. I think I should stay. I want to make sure we're all on the same page about everything. I completely understand, but trust me, you don't want to be bored with discussions about shapewear and false eyelash brands. I promise it'll only take 5 minutes. He doesn't want to leave. I can see it in his face, but refusing would look bizarre, controlling. So he stands. 5 minutes, he says, to Sarah, not to me, like he's setting a timer on her freedom. Of course, I say smoothly. He leaves, the door closes. I have maybe 3 minutes before he comes back, making an excuse about a phone call or needing to check his schedule. Sarah, I say, moving my chair closer to hers. I need to ask you something, and I need you to hear it. Are you safe? She blinks. What? Are you safe with Ryan? Really, truly safe? Yes, of course. Why would you? You haven't made a single decision in this meeting. You look to him before answering any question. You're very thin. You mentioned feeling tired all the time. He talks about helping you with your health routine. Sarah, these are patterns I've seen before. Patterns that ended with someone being seriously hurt. Her face goes pale. I don't know what you're... If Ryan is controlling what you eat, what you take, who you see, where you go, that's not love. That's control. And if you're feeling sick, if your health is declining, and Ryan is the one preparing your food or giving you supplements, you need to get comprehensively tested by a doctor you choose, not one he recommends. Tears fill her eyes. He says he's just trying to help me be my best self. He says I was overweight and unhealthy when we met, and he's helped me become better. What do you think? She stops, starts again. I don't know what I think anymore. I don't remember what I liked or wanted before Ryan. He has opinions about everything, and they're usually right, so I just let him decide. It's easier. Easier than what? Than fighting, then disagreeing, then being wrong. She's crying openly now. He says I need him, that I'd be nothing without him, that I should be grateful he tolerates my flaws. I've heard this too. This exact phrasing. It's from the abuser playbook. Convince the victim they're worthless, make them grateful for crumbs of affection, isolate them until the abuser is their entire world. Sarah, I'm going to give you something. I pull out cards, Detective Chen's. Safe Witness Coalitions, the National Domestic Violence Hotline. These are resources, people who can help. You don't have to call them today. You don't have to do anything you're not ready for. But I need you to know that what's happening to you isn't normal. And if you want help, it's available. Ryan will see these cards. He goes through my purse. Of course he does. Then take a photo with your phone and delete it immediately. Or memorize the numbers. Or text them to a friend Ryan doesn't know about. However you need to do it. But Sarah, please get help. Before it's too late. There's a knock on the door. Ryan, right on schedule. Come in, I call. He enters, all smiles. How did it go? All the boring bride details sorted out? Almost, I say. Sarah, did you want to tell Ryan about the dress timeline we discussed? I'm giving her a cover story in case he asks what we talked about. Yes, she says, wiping her eyes quickly. Maya explained about the fitting schedule and when I need to order the dress. Great. Ryan puts his hand on her shoulder. I watch her flinch almost imperceptibly. So Maya, we'd love to book you for next June. What's the next step? This is the moment, the decision I faced before. Actually, I say, I need to be honest with you both. After reviewing my schedule, I'm not going to be able to take on your wedding. I'm already overcommitted for next June, and I wouldn't be able to give you the attention you deserve. Ryan's face darkens. Your website says you're accepting bookings. For other months, June is my busiest season, and I've reached my capacity. I can refer you to other excellent planners. We don't want other planners. We want you. Sarah specifically asked for you. I look at Sarah. She's staring at her hands. I'm flattered, I say, but I have to manage my workload responsibly. I'll email you a list of recommendations, all people I trust and who do beautiful work. Ryan stands abruptly. Come on, Sarah, we're done here. I don't understand why you wasted our time with this, Maya. Very unprofessional. He's already heading toward the door. Sarah stands to follow, moving automatically. At the doorway, she glances back at me. Our eyes meet. I nod slightly. You know where to find help. You know people are paying attention? She nods back, just barely, then she's gone. I sit at my desk for a long time after they leave, staring at nothing. Did I do enough? Should I have been more direct? Should I have called the police right then? But I know the answer. Sarah isn't ready. Maybe she'll never be ready. Maybe she'll marry Ryan and spend years in that relationship before she finds the courage to leave. Or maybe, just maybe, that 3-minute conversation planted a seed. Maybe tonight she'll think about what I said. Maybe she'll look up those resources. Maybe she'll realize that feeling controlled and diminished isn't normal. Maybe I saved her life today. Or maybe I just planted this seed that will save her life 6 months from now, or a year from now, or 5 years from now. That's the thing about this work. You don't always get to see the outcome. You don't always know if you made a difference, but you try anyway. Because sometimes, like with Lauren, you do make a difference. You do save someone. You do and stop something terrible from happening. And that possibility, that chance, that hope, it's worth every uncomfortable conversation, every refused booking, every moment of doubt. I've been planning weddings for 21 years now. I've organized over 650 ceremonies. I've witnessed hundreds of couples promise forever. I've seen love in all its forms. Young love, mature love, second chance love, love that burns bright and love that grows quietly over decades. But I've also seen the shadow side, the control masquerading as care, the isolation disguised as intimacy, the destruction wrapped in romance. The Derek Hastings case taught me that my job isn't just about making beautiful moments. It's about seeing the truth beneath the performance. It's about recognizing when something that looks like love is actually something much darker. Here's what I've learned, what I want everyone to know. Trust your instincts. If something feels wrong, it probably is. Our bodies and minds pick up on patterns our conscious awareness hasn't processed yet. Don't ignore that internal alarm system. Document everything, write down dates, times, specific statements, observations. If you're worried about someone, keep records. You may never need them, but if you do, they could be the difference between life and death. Ask the hard questions. Are you safe? Are you happy? Is this what you really want? Give people permission to tell the truth by showing you're ready to hear it. Professional boundaries don't mean moral blindness. You can do your job and still care about people's well-being. In fact, doing your job well sometimes means stepping outside traditional boundaries to help someone in danger. You can't save everyone. Some people aren't ready to be saved. Some situations are too complicated. Some victims will choose to stay. That's not your failure. All you can do is offer support and resources and let them know someone cares. The smallest intervention can have the biggest impact. A 3-minute conversation, a business card with a hotline number, a simple, "I see you and I'm worried." Sometimes that's all it takes to save a life. Systems are supposed to protect people, but they don't always work. Doctors miss signs. Police don't investigate. Families dismiss concerns. Don't assume someone else is handling it. If you see something, say something, do something. Abusers are often charming, successful, and seemingly perfect. They don't look like monsters. They look like ideal partners. That's what makes them so dangerous. Trust patterns of behavior, not surface impressions. Recovery takes time. Lauren is still healing 4 years later. Trauma doesn't have a timeline. Support survivors wherever they are in their journey, even if that journey takes decades. Speaking up is terrifying, but silence is deadly. Michelle and I risked our careers, our reputations, possibly our freedom to save Lauren. We'd both make the same choice again without hesitation. Because the alternative, watching someone die and doing nothing, is unbearable. Lauren sent me a text message last week, just 3 words. Still here, thank you. Still here, still. Still alive, still fighting, still building a life that's hers. That's what matters. That's what all of this, the investigation, the trial, the media attention, the speaking engagements, the training programs, the book, the nonprofit, that's what it's all been for. So that more people are still here. So that fewer weddings end in tragedy. So that when someone is drowning, someone else notices and throws them a lifeline. The Ashford estate still stands, still hosts weddings every weekend. I've planned 3 ceremonies there since Lauren's collapsed wedding. Each time I walk through those doors, I think about that June day 4 years ago. The string quartet, the white roses, the bride in the enormous dress falling to the marble floor. The moment everything changed. Patricia, the venue manager, told me they've made changes since the incident. They now have EMTs on standby for all weddings, not just when requested. They've trained their staff to recognize signs of medical distress. They have protocols for emergency situations. One wedding's crisis has made hundreds of other weddings safer. That's the ripple effect. I think about Amanda sometimes and the bride I saved 6 months ago by asking the right question at the right time. She sends me updates occasionally. She's in therapy. She's rebuilding her career. She's learning to trust herself again. She's alive. I think about Sarah. The consultation from today. I don't know what will happen to her. Maybe she'll call those numbers I gave her. Maybe she won't. Maybe Ryan is exactly what he appears to be, and I misread the situation entirely. But I'd rather be wrong 100 times than right once and silent about it. That's the bargain I've made with myself. The price of awareness is perpetual vigilance. The cost of seeing patterns is never being able to unsee them. Some people might call it paranoia, hypervigilance, seeing threats where none exist. I call it being awake. I call it refusing to let another Lauren disappear while everyone watches. I call it doing my job, not just the surface job of planning weddings, but the deeper job of bearing witness to people's lives and caring about what that witness reveals. Here's what I want you to understand, what I need you to hear. Derek Hastings wasn't an anomaly. He wasn't a 1 in a million monster. He was a regular person who decided to commit murder, and he almost got away with it because people didn't want to see what was happening. Lauren wasn't uniquely vulnerable or foolish. She was an educated, intelligent woman who'd been systematically manipulated and isolated by someone who presented himself as loving and helpful. What happened to them could happen to anyone. Is happening to people right now in your community, in relationships you observe, in weddings being planned by vendors who notice something's wrong but don't know what to do about it. This story, Lauren's story, Michelle's story, my story, it's not just about one dramatic wedding day, collapse and arrest. It's about all the small moments leading up to that day, all the time someone could have intervened but didn't, all the red flags that were explained away, all the suffering that happened in plain sight. It's about what happens when people decide to pay attention, when strangers decide to care, when professional obligations meet moral imperatives and people choose courage over comfort. If you're reading this, if you've stayed with me through this entire story, I want to ask you something. Who in your life needs someone to ask them, are you safe? Is there a friend who's changing, withdrawing, becoming a shadow of themselves? A coworker whose partner is always calling, always checking in, always hovering? A client whose dynamic with their significant other makes you uncomfortable, but you can't quite articulate why? Ask the question. Document what you see. Provide resources. Trust your instincts. You might be wrong, but you might be right. And if you're right and you say nothing, someone might die. That's not hyperbole, that's literal truth. Lauren would be dead if Michelle and I had stayed silent. Amanda would be dead within a year if I hadn't asked the hard question. Sarah, I don't know yet, but I gave her information and she knows someone is paying attention. Maybe that's enough. Maybe it's not. Time will tell, but I'll never regret asking. I'll never regret risking professional awkwardness or personal discomfort to let someone know they matter, that their safety matters, that people see them, because that's the world I want to live in. Not one where everyone minds their own business and people suffer in silence, but one where we're connected, where we watch out for each other, where we accept that sometimes loving our neighbor means asking uncomfortable questions and offering unwanted help. Lauren collapsed at the altar at exactly 2:47 p.m. on June 15th, 4 years ago. She didn't die. And because she didn't die, she's helped train thousands of people to recognize abuse. She's written a book that's been read by millions. She's founded organizations that have saved dozens of other lives. She's living proof that intervention works, that speaking up matters, that one person's courage can cascade into society-wide change. I'm a wedding planner. I plan celebrations of love and commitment. But sometimes, the most important thing I do is recognize when what looks like love is actually something deadly. And when that happens, when I see those patterns, when I hear those alarm bells, I don't look away. I never look away. Because I've seen what happens when you do. I've seen the almost tragedy that became a triumph because people refused to be silent. And I've committed myself to making sure that as long as I'm planning weddings, as long as I'm bearing witness to couples building lives together, I will trust my instincts. I will ask hard questions. I will document concerns. I will connect people with help. I will refuse to plan weddings that I know are preludes to funerals. That's not conventional wedding planning. That's not what they teach you in event management school. But it's what 21 years of experience has taught me. It's what 650 weddings have shown me. It's what the Derek Hastings case burned into my soul. Some brides need flowers and timelines. Some brides need someone to save their lives. I'm grateful. I was able to give Lauren both. And I'll spend the rest of my career making sure I'm ready to do it again for whoever needs it, whenever they need it. Because that's not just good business. That's being human.
Thanks so much for joining us on this journey. If you loved this tale, please subscribe to Tin Tea Tales for more stories like this one. Hit that like button, leave a comment with your thoughts, and check out our latest uploads on the channel. We'd love to hear from you, and we'll see you in the next one.